King 7-2 diamonds. Gonna be a situation where Daniel probably bets small a lot. He does, as he scoops a small one over on the right. Two-tone board like this, Doug isn't going to have a ton of continues, or at least not as many as he would on a rainbow. King 7 is pretty disadvantageous for him as the caller. Yeah, we got a lot to tune in for. Can Daniel make a run at this? Can he make it a game, given the low volatility style that Doug is trying to introduce? Something that I said last stream that I kind of clarified on my stream yesterday while playing the tournament that I want to also clarify again here today is that I said Doug was giving up win rate by implementing a limping strategy. That's not true necessarily. You know, as he kind of tweeted, adding a limping strategy actually increases EV, not decreases. And both are true and false. So in theory, having a more complex preflop strategy will increase your EV. Obviously, the more strategic options that you can implement in an optimal way, the more complicated the response your opponent's counter strategy has to be, thus creating a propensity for mistakes. However, if by complicating your strategy, you allow yourself to fall victim to your opponent's mistakes. So for instance, if Doug isn't calibrated in Daniel's response that is mistake laden, then suddenly it will impact his EV in a negative way, right? So if Doug isn't balancing his ranges, which he is, I'm pretty certain he's just rolling and he has well-defined preflop charts to allow him to do so. He'll be giving up a little bit there. But where it really matters is in the post-flop game tree. Now with much greater SPRs, if either player is unstudied in their proper strategies, then obviously like EV becomes a free-for-all. So when they play a limp pot and they go to the flop at an SPR of 50, the post-flop strategy is going to look very, very different than it would if it were a single raise pot where they arrive at the flop with an SPR of like 20. More importantly, bet sizes become a lot more hindered, right? Because there's only going to be 2 big blinds in the pot. Now the minimum bet size we can choose is 50%. And that's going to complicate things for one of the 2 players. Now, of course, we're going to assume that it's going to complicate things for Daniel, not Doug. But it's just very possible that Daniel falls into pretty natural, good counters versus a limp, as opposed to versus a more aggressive strategy. So I don't think that like either of those statements can just be said in general and be true. I think that it's much more specific to the 2 players, their knowledge of the game, their strategies, things of that nature. I think both of them kind of oversimplified. Like Daniel saying that he can't lose now that Doug is limping is crazy. He still just has to play a bunch of 50 big blind, or sorry, he has to play a bunch of 50 SPR spots post. He also has to play a bunch of inflated pots out of position when he chooses to be the opener in order to counter this strategy. You know, I don't think it really impacts all that much who the day in, day out winner is. Matter of fact, I don't think it impacts it really at all. The only thing I think it impacts is the floor and the ceiling of wins and losses per day. I think we're far less likely to see a 10 buy-in swing whenever one player is implementing a less volatile strategy. Just as though we would see a much, there would be a likelihood for a much greater a much greater swing if Daniel were implementing, say, a 5x opening strategy, right? He would be giving up EV there almost certainly. Well, not true, right? Because it's the exact same thing as limping. Any strategy can be balanced as long as you have the mechanisms to figure out what that balance is. Some strategies are just less incentivized. So in a general sense, like limping and opening huge are just kind of disincentivized. Both mainly because of the complexity that they add to a street that doesn't really offer much EV to gain or lose. But like, you know, with that said, there's obviously benefit to it, particularly for Doug, or in particular for Doug, who's just trying to hold on to a positive number when it's all said and done. Doug sits out. We haven't seen this. Not really sure what to make of it. We'll find out. I imagine that maybe his pre-flop charts are broken and he doesn't know what the fuck to do right now. Sorry, just a quick production note. Had to shout out to my man Andre, who's doing shit behind the scenes. You know, really getting after it. Who out there's dabbling in the market right now, huh? A little AMC action, a little GameStop maybe. We getting out there, kids? I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I don't know shit about the financial market. Watched a really cool interview with Chamath today on CNBC that I thought was good. He did a great job of explaining why this occurred and why, I guess, why institutional money is upset about it occurring and why they really don't have the right to be. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like Doug's on a Cialis break, trying to get that sausage standing upright so he can be holding his hand on the river, you know. It was an interesting break. I don't know. I mean, you know, everybody's afforded the ability to take them. Daniel takes them regularly. Daniel breaks the match pretty much every single session. I think he has broken the match every single session. So, you know, Doug taking it, maybe he had the shit. I don't know. I don't know, right? Like, life happens. But now here we are battling it out. I wonder if we do see Doug 3-bet on the right. I was just about to say, I wonder if there is any adjustments taking place in his 3-bet strategy. Is he attempting to reduce volatility to the point where perhaps he's splitting sizings, or maybe working on having a slightly stronger flat calling range? My instincts say no. I think that he probably feels like he built a pretty bulletproof out of position game plan to begin with, but I'm not positive. I wouldn't be shocked to know that there's a complementary out of position strategy to the one that you're playing in position. 6-3 deuce rainbow. Doug continues for relatively large. Looks like about 66%. He does choose to limp on the left. So we are seeing more of the same. Daniel finds a fold on the 6-3 deuce. Probably just some bad overs like Jack 10 off. Something of that nature. Daniel really using his bank when making these decisions. I think that there's maybe a chance that one or both of them are having some sort of internet issues. Gameplay's been relatively slow. We did see Doug sit out, which is a rare occurrence, and I know that they both use Cox, which I am also a client of, and can attest to the fact that they're the goddamn worst. Just the fucking worst. We had like a 2-day internet outage last weekend just for shits and giggles, I guess. Doug chooses half pot on the left. Ace 9-5 single raise pot. Daniel will have a little bit of ace X. Some like ace 5 off. Ace deuce, ace 3. I'm not sure how often he's supposed to be raising his bad ace X offsuit versus the limp strategy. I'm sure he knows now. I imagine that Daniel's opening strategy probably looks similarly to his 3-bet strategy, unless he's going to start opening the smaller sizes, which we haven't seen yet. He was choosing 4x last time. I think if he goes closer to like 2.5, 3x, then maybe he's opening a little bit wider. Tough to say, though. Tough to say. Turn 5, check, check. Definitely a card Daniel could have donked on. River King. I think Daniel can block with an ace, a 9, some of his 5. He doesn't really have a ton of natural bluffs, just kind of like 7, 8, 6, 7. Maybe some 3, 4. Well, I guess he does have a completed rate, right? Because it's a limp pot. So he definitely has more trash. Like he has the 2, 4 offsuits now. And hands of that nature, 2, 3 off. So yeah, he has to be kind of careful about what hands he chooses to bluff river with. He also has a lot more 5x, right? Like he just has 100% of his 5x. So we could see some check raising taking place here. I think that's pretty reasonable. Doug goes for it with the 6-4. No real choice there on the end. Kind of a tough spot. Not really sure what you're targeting. Other than hands that you actually beat. Like, it's kind of crazy, but like, you know, the hands that fold naturally there are like 4-3, 4 deuce, 3 deuce, all of which you're beating. Now, of course, Daniel can have like backdoor draws, but I think he's going to raise most of his good suited hands. So he probably doesn't have any Jack 10, Queen Jack, Queen 10, King Queen, or anything of that nature in the suited variety. Now he could have like King 4 with a backdoor, but again, that made a pair. I think Queen High is just like calling a ton. So if he has a hand like Queen Deuce, Queen 3, Queen 4 with a backdoor, he's probably just calling river a lot. Yeah, just kind of wonky for Doug there. Single raise here on the left, 3-bet here on the right. Let's see if Daniel ramps it up a little bit in this 3-bet spot. He's playing awfully slow today. Be curious to know what exactly he's driving. Could just be that he's trying to prolong to some degree, trying to play as few hands as possible in the two hours allotted so that he can continue to study these counter strategies. I think that's pretty reasonable. You know, at this point, like with Doug changing his strategy, I don't think anything is beyond the scope of gamesmanship. So Daniel just like exhausting his time bank. He's doing it consistently, if you notice. He's allowing the bar to run out before making every single decision. And that has to be a conscious choice to extend this match. My guess is we're going to play exactly 2 hours today. Daniel's going to go back. He's going to study again. We're probably going to play 75% of the hands that we played last session. So, Andre, I don't know if you have an exact count, but I'm thinking it was somewhere in the 500 hand. Nah, that's too many for 2 hours. Probably closer to like 250 or 300. Last session, we'll probably see like closer to 200 or fewer this session, I would guess. So this is the 3-bet pot. Didn't see how we got here. I assume it went C-bet call. Check, check, turn. Land on the river jack. Doug does check. I missed the showdown, but Daniel wins. Or maybe he just bet and won. I glanced away for 1 second. Trying to update this Instagram. Yo, I can't do this, man. I can't do this. He's going to fucking use 15 seconds before every single decision. Shout out to Daniel. I got a ton of respect for this. I love that you're playing the game right now. I mean, I hate it. But I love it just as much as I love Doug limping, right? Like, we're getting to endgame strat right now, and this is a chess match. And I love that they've gotten this deep into the minutia that it's worth exhausting your time bank before every single decision. But as a commentator, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this for 2 hours. They're going to play 50 total hands. Oh, bad day for Chin to be out to lunch. Doug chooses a limp here on the left. Daniel goes with the 3x strategy. I could get behind this. I'm still not convinced it's optimal. Something tells me 2.5x is just performing better. I know the common idea is when we're out of position, we want to go larger, but that's only true in 3-bet spots, right? It's only true when we're in the blinds and we're 3-betting a range that's earlier, and largely that's because the reason why we want to go larger is because we have an incentive to just call. We already have money invested, so we're getting a better price on a call than we are on a raise. If you think about like opening under the gun, when you have say 8 actors left to act behind you, you don't increase that raise size. You don't open 3x from under the gun and 2x from the button. I mean, you could build a strategy that way, but it's not super common. So I think my instincts are that we don't want to shovel in a pile of money out of position, but we also don't want to like min raise, because then our big hands start to underperform. Something like 2.5, 2.75 feels good. Obviously 3x is never going to hurt him, but you do open the action back up to an in position player, and you do put yourself in a situation where it's wonky, man, right? Like, because it's not like 4-bet pots where when you 3-bet out of the small, or out of the big rather, you have a restricted framework of hands, and then when you face the 4, you have an even narrower construct of hands that's going to continue in some sort of capacity. And most importantly, they're going to continue based off the fact that SPR is reasonably low. When you open from the big blind like this and face a 3-bet, what happens is it may be the same, or it may feel intuitively like it's supposed to be the same grouping of hands that continue. The issue is that can't be true, because SPR is much greater. So you're almost certain to be able to continue wider unless he lays a significantly worse price. I see the numbers are down today. No shock. We got Phil Gelfond, the GOAT, over on Joey Ingram's stream. A lot of respect to that guy. Just finished off another challenge, handing it to Chance Corneth. It seemed like it was a battle the whole way, but Phil ultimately ended up being up, I think, $1 million with the side bet, give or take. Just glancing through the chat. Apparently we had audio issues to start with. Apologies for that. Alexander Eckert said, still working on getting something proprietary to show hole cards for these. I don't know what you're talking about, man. We don't have access to that information. Miso says, what is your opinion on Doug's limping strategy? Compliment to Daniel. Did Doug run bad? I discussed this on the early portion of the stream. Hopefully you guys were able to hear it. If not, by all means, let me know. Shout out to my man Pads on Poker, hanging out in the chat. Really appreciate you stopping by, man. Thank you so much. He said this is the cleanest setup. You can thank Andre Hangshua for that. He's grinding in the studio, building this out, working hard behind the scenes. Matt Van Dam says, in 5 to 10 years, do you make more money from poker or Bitcoin? Probably. Well, it depends, I think. It depends on if it's 5 or 10 years. If it's 5, probably. Yeah, I don't know. I bet it's reasonably close. Mainly because I don't own enough Bitcoin. Like, if it were to 4x and hold, I'm obviously not in any position, or I'm not in any hurry to sell. So if it were to 4x overnight and just hold that way for 5 years, I would certainly make more in poker. It'd be very close. It would be very, very close, I think. I would have to average high six figures every year, but for the last 7 I have. So I think that it's relatively close. Although I would say that like it's more probable that my earning power in poker decreases as everybody gets better. Whereas the earning power of Bitcoin is very likely to continually increase as more and more people get into it and the scarcity becomes a real thing. Doug is tilted. Did you see his tweet? Let's go check. Oh. Shout out to my man Jeremiah Williams. I see you out there on the Twitter street saying, I said it before, I'll say it again. Solve for Why has the best stream of this heads up match by far. Bill Perkins hitting us up as well. Really appreciate you guys shouting us out. It means a lot. Perkins says, props to Solve for Why TV for having the up-to-date hand count and up-to-date score, almost like watching a professional sports broadcast. They take feedback well. Everybody likes somebody who can handle feedback. Completely pathetic showing from Real Kid Poker today. Tanking 20 seconds to open, 20 seconds to check flop. Tanking every single decision in an effort to slow the game down to nothing. Total piece of shit move. What are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? Where does this fucking guy get off, man? He just like says inflammatory things. He honestly, he's literally the guy who interviewed Chamath today on CNBC. The guy who's upset from the institutional side of the market because suddenly the loose, free, outside money found a way to manipulate the market in their favor. And he's just crying, no, this is bullshit. This is not allowed. The institution is supposed to profit. And like, that's Doug in this instance. He's throwing a hissy fit because Daniel's doing something well within the rules. Like, what are you talking about, man? You changed your strategy halfway through. The man's a dog to begin with. You're going to fault him for doing things that allow him to get in more study time? This is madness. You are clearly in a position where you're willing to do absolutely anything within the constructs of the rules to book a win because your side action is so great, right? This is from the guy who, man, I'm about to go off. This is from the guy who spent months goading Daniel into this heads up match, knowing full well that he was a massive favorite. And in no other scenario would this match take place without Daniel being laid some sort of price or some sort of big blinds per 100, right? Then after he finally gets his way, he goes on this like media publicity tour where he's just backing the fucking truck up. And this is the last you're going to see of Doug Polk. He just came back to poker to rise from the ashes, to beat up on some recreational pro who thinks he's way better than he is and his ego is going to get in the way. And we're just going to make millions and millions and millions of fucking dollars. And now when it comes down to nut crunching time, where he could be really piling it on, trying to win 2 million straight off of Daniel, he doesn't give a fuck, man. He doesn't care if he wins $1 or $500,000, because whatever his side action is so goddamn significant that it matters to the point where he's willing to change his strategy and slow the fucking game down. It's insane to then criticize the guy that you are a significant favorite against, at least in the early goings of this match. Maybe Daniel has closed the gap, right? And maybe that's what's driving this tweet, is that it's like, I don't like that this guy's continually getting better and slowing down my pace of play. Like, go fuck yourself. What are you talking about, man? It's just insanity. Come back to earth. This guy's doing something within the rules that's a piece of shit move? Come on. Man, 33 streams. It took 33 streams for me to stop saying, Doug's a very good player. He's calculated. Whatever he's doing, it makes perfect sense. I really don't have any hand criticisms. He's much better than me at heads up poker. I'm not going to be in a position to judge, and just lambasting Negreanu, despite the fact that I bet on him, despite the fact that I consider him a peer and a friend and someone that I'm actively rooting for in this. I've been so harsh and critical of him throughout 33 streams. And now I just hear this petulant child whining to his 200,000 followers. God damn it, man. Take your fucking money and shut up. Christ. How? How do people make it anywhere in life with this sort of attitude? It's just... Man. It's very hard for me to see this. I'm so sure that Twitter is just going to pile on Daniel. And this is the problem, is that the rational people who understand why Daniel's doing what he's doing and who understand that it's well within the scope of gamesmanship and well within his right of the rules, they'll stay quiet. Because nobody wants to attach themselves to that side. Nobody wants to fight the supreme leader. Nobody wants to go up against the loudest megaphone in the industry, right? But when Doug starts limping, there are a bunch of people who just jump to his defense. And they just jump right out and go LOL to think that limping doesn't add EV. Today I learned that that the community doesn't know that limping adds EV to your strategy. It's just like, it's so silly, man. We've created this fucking echo chamber where if you aren't a hand-selected group of people, your opinion doesn't matter. And moreover, no one else is allowed to state theirs. No one else can do what you do. Literally, if the roles were reversed, right? If the roles were absolutely reversed, we would see the complete opposite response. It's just silly, man. This is like time banking on the bubble of a tournament. Of course he's going to do it. His win rate and EV go up if he can drag this match out and study your strategy more. Period. The guy's fucking coming from behind. Period. What do you want him to do? Not go for it on 4th and 1? You want him to follow the rules or the tradition and punt? And the thing is, how do people not see through it, man? The tweet is just a means of antagonizing, right? It's a means of turning the lynch mob loose and saying, everybody go attack Daniel so that he's embarrassed for this strategy that he's employing. While the exact opposite happens when Doug makes a strategic change. Everybody worship the supreme leader. He's so smart. What a genius. He recognized down up 500,000 that he could reduce Daniel's likelihood of coming back in this match by limping and playing more small pots. Wow, we'll talk about this years and decades to come. It must be tough being the smartest person in the room. In every room. I need to quit Twitter. I can't breathe. Oh, man. Okay, let's get back to the action. A little 6K pot going Daniel's way. Yo, King 7 suited. Daniel quickly up a buy-in. All he needs is one a day, especially if they're only going to play 200 hands. Maybe fewer. Maybe fewer. Every hand has to take at least 1 minute to complete, right? Pre-flop, flop. Actually, if they go to the river, it can take at least a bare minimum of 1:20. Additionally, you have to factor in Doug's time and then any other tanking that may take place. Lucky Luke Lifestyle says, when this is done, should they not play mixed games? Heads up, that would be fair. No. I don't know, to be honest. So I think the reason why Daniel only chose to take one game or to basically play Doug in his best game rather than a mix of games is that his proficiency in any one game doesn't matter all that much. What matters is the overall scope or breadth of his heads up knowledge. And I think he felt like he had so much to learn that it would just complicate things if he started to throw in other sort of games. Now that he's gotten really proficient at No Limit, it's very feasible that he might have a small edge at other big bet games. Although, to be fair, Doug's strategy is going to translate really well into other big bet games as well. I don't think that they had any limit games on the table. Nor do I think Doug was even willing to entertain the idea of doing like a multiple game mix beyond 2. So I think that like basically when they were negotiating, Doug was open to the idea of Daniel choosing his best game, Doug choosing his best game. But I think he wanted to keep it within the scope of big bet games, if I recall. Daniel making trips on the right. That was an interesting check down. I guess I didn't see flop and turn action. Andre, if you have a replay, can we pull that up? Matt, would you do this if you were in Dnegs' position? Sorry, go ahead, Andre. Oh, that was... How did the... No, that's a different hand. Doug's sitting out once again. Probably calling Daniel to give him an earful. Check, check, flop, jack, jack 9, turn 10. Doug bets, Daniel calls. Doug must bluff this river. No, check, check. Bro, check, check? What? Full house, baby. Okay, I don't like that, obviously. I think we're losing a lot of value there. Doug was betting the king high on the turn for protection, not for bluff. And he's certainly going to have hands that show down. Also, you're going to have hands that need to bluff there. You're going to have small pairs that get counterfeit. You're going to have some 9x that got counterfeit. You're going to have a lot of 9x that got counterfeit. And he's just going to have other check calls, right? He's going to have king queen once in a while. He's going to have other king highs, obviously, as their open or their gut shots on the turn. He's gonna have some queen highs that may feel like they need to make a crying call, and certainly he's gonna have like bad ace highs, like ace 5 off and shit like that. So I definitely think Daniel can get called by worse there when he has a 10. I don't know if that was a misclick or if it was a means of signaling to Doug that he's playing poorly, right? Like maybe Daniel just doesn't see there being a ton of EV. What is going on? What is going on right now? We're 40 minutes into the challenge. Both players are now sitting up. This is wild. This is absolutely wild. Yeah, I agree with you guys. It's going to be difficult to watch him take his time like this, but you know, this is what commentary's for. We're the ones who are supposed to fill those voids. So, you know, hopefully myself, Ingram, Gelfond, whoever's on the GG stream today, whoever's on the Upswing stream today, hopefully the commentating crew is going to be able to do a good job. Like, also, the other thing is too, look at it this way as a viewer. This is a pretty big opportunity because when the action is this slow, we can actually keep up with 2 tables pretty well. And we can kind of dive a little bit deeper into the strategy of the spots. It's really hard when chips are just flying, especially in situations where there's multiple commentators. I don't prefer doing this solo as opposed to having Chin here. If nothing else, I like the fact that Chin's very inquisitive and it keeps the conversation rolling. But in a scenario where they're playing so slowly that we can do a deeper dive into strategy rather than just kind of like talk over 2 tables playing at once and highlight the big hands, this is a pretty good opportunity to do so, right? Like We know each hand is going to take a minute to a minute and a half to complete. This might be the first that we've actually seen Doug literally tilted. Yeah, Daniel did like snap check that 10 too. He didn't take his full 20 seconds. I don't like that. You're gonna do it, do it. John Long says, please check on Chin. Where he at? He's not feeling well today. We gave the man the day off to rest. He deserves it. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I'm reading a little bit of the Twitter sphere now. Everybody really jumping on the back of Daniel, you know, kind of calling him a coward indirectly and things of that nature. I think that it's laughable, man. I think it's insane. Yeah, so Pads just tweeted something that I think, you know, I kind of stated it already, but I think it's very obvious. He said, I guess Negreanu can make Doug play as many sessions as possible, will quit after 2 hours each time, maximize his study time out, and force Doug to be more invested, which, in parentheses, he put, Doug obviously hates poker. This is genius in the most evil way. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Like... what about this is cowardice? I don't understand. I just don't understand. Like, when bets are made and there are areas within the rule that can be gamed, like, this isn't outside the scope of the spirit of the bet. Maybe it is for Doug. Maybe his idea is play 25,000 hands as fast as possible, realize my win rate, and ride off into retirement. But from Daniel, he's the underdog. It's the exact opposite. It's play 25,000 hands as methodically and well thought out as humanly possible, doing everything within my power to close a skill gap that no one thinks I can do over a short period of time. Why on earth would he be criticized for that? Why aren't we applauding this? Right? Why aren't we looking back retroactively and saying there's a lot that Daniel could have done like this to give himself a better chance early in this match? He could have quit at I mean, he did do a good job early on in the match of quitting at the 2 hour mark a lot of the time. He also could have slowed down his play back then. He could have been doing more limping on the button himself back then, right? All these things to like curb volatility, to frustrate Doug, to drag this on, to put yourself in a position to ultimately win. It's nice. It's fucking nice to see Daniel be so thought out that he's playing endgame strategy. I just don't for the life of me understand how this is bothering anybody, right? It's like, you accept the limp, but you don't accept the time bank, because one is a mechanic of the game and the other is what? Not a mechanic of the game, right? Like, do you get upset in high rollers when somebody exhausts their shot clock? I don't follow the logic, man. I don't follow the logic. And I am somebody who would be so brutally annoyed by this, I wouldn't want to play. I'm the type of person who gives up EV on the bubble because I'm stubborn and I hate to play slow. But I don't chastise those that feel otherwise. What can you do? It's built into the game. You can't retroactively change the rules, right? Like, if it's a bad rule, if the time bank's too long, change it for next challenge. That's fine. Like, you can't handcuff a guy who's found a means of bettering his opportunity to win. It's available to you too. Let's see what else the chat has to say. Wow, big spike. Welcome everybody new. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, hit that follow. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Phil Ivy says, Matt, it's childish. Childish how? I don't understand. Are emotions not a part of this game? Is Daniel not in a position to try to manipulate Doug in any way, shape, or form he can? Pez says, what if Doug would have came over the top on that value bet with 10s full? Well, you call, man. You know, you call and you lose. You have hands that qualify. You're going to be betting a lot of other hands there. You're going to bet ace high for value there and fold. You're going to bet queens, kings, aces, jacks, or sorry, not jacks, queens, kings, and aces there for value and call some of the time and fold others. You're going to bluff with 9x. You're going to bluff with under pairs. You're going to bluff. Pretty much that's it. Maybe some suited connectors that have made it that far. 8-7 suited, something of that nature that blocks a 10. And you're going to fold those to the raise. It's all a game of math. You bet call your 10s. You bet call or bet raise your jacks. I guess you would bet raise because it's the effect of nuts there. And you can't play the what if game. You can't say, oh, checking is 0 EV, but betting is winning me, I don't know, $1,500. But I'm afraid that I might be losing like $12 by overcalling a check raise. So therefore I just won't bet. Like, what? That's not the way this works. What do you guys think is taking place right now during this extended break? Like a phone call for sure, right? There is 100% a phone call taking place. Oh, fascinating. Fascinating. Okay. So this is really interesting stuff. Gelfond is a guest today on Ingram's podcast. He's currently not there because he's on the phone mediating this between the two competitors right now. Phil's got a tough job, a very, very, very tough job. And I don't trust anybody to be fair more so than Phil. But I got to tell you, if in some way, shape, or form, this is ruled against Daniel, I would be absolutely beside myself. Like, I can't think of a justified reason for any objective person to think what Daniel is doing is somehow not okay. It's boring. It's annoying. It is tilting, but it's fine. It's just absolutely fine. How many sessions do they have left? However many it takes. We're at 19,434 hands. So we have about we have exactly 6,066 hands left to play. Oh, man. It's not even a loophole. That's the thing. Paulie P says it's called a loophole. Check our government. It's not even a loophole. It's just whatever, man. Like, there's just no way you can't say that this is a strategic adjustment. The only thing it doesn't have anything to do with is the actual physical dollars being put into a pot. But this is 100% a part of strategy. Just like him quitting at the 2-hour mark is a part of strategy and is heavily encouraged, right? We were a little bit critical at some points throughout this where Daniel was playing beyond the 2 hours in spots where like Doug was kind of rolling. And we're like, you should just always quit at that mark and then spend the next 36 hours grinding your fucking study. Did they play 46 hands today? I'm not sure. I didn't see what the counter was at the very beginning. But that sounds about right. Man, if I was richer, I would offer Polk a heads-up challenge just to stall every fucking hand. If I were Daniel rich... Left Hand Lee says, hey, Berk, chance of a quick recap as I was late to the stream. Daniel's up about a buy-in. They are currently having this situation mediated with Phil Galfond. Basically, Daniel is taking his full time bank to make every decision. Does this sit out time count as part of the 2-hour minimum? I would imagine no. I'm honestly, I'm flabbergasted that this is currently turning into a temper tantrum. Like, I'm beside myself that poor Galfond, man. Poor Galfond. If I was him, I would answer the phone with my eyes rolled and just be like, sorry, Doug, I know this is annoying, but like, what do you want me to do, man? He's so patient and kind and objective and thoughtful that I know that he will let both of them state their side, and he will go through the entire rigmarole of like trying to objectively display how he got to his result. But this is an open and shut, like 2-second phone conversation of like, hey, get over it. Like, get over it. He's going to take a minute to play every hand. Get over it. You're going to have to play poker a lot longer to win millions of dollars. Get over it. This is such first world problems. What up, Connie? How you doing, my man? Good to see you out here in the chat. Do you think we are done today? No. No. No, I think we are in for a long, grueling session. I really hope that Daniel doesn't cave. I hope that like his objective behind this wasn't to get the phone call made to kind of like have Doug put egg on his face. He needs to lean into these spots where he has leverage. This is a scenario where it's very clear this is bothersome to Doug. And even if it only annoys him even if no EV is gained outside of him being annoyed, I think that that's worth it to Daniel, because the fact is there is some EV being exchanged. He's going to get more time to study counter strategies, period. And that has to be just worth a fuck ton to him. Tens of thousands of dollars? I don't know. Maybe. It's definitely not worth zero, and it's certainly not worth negative. So like, I think that this is a place to dig your heels in and just say like, look, there is no rule stipulating that utilizing a time bank is frowned upon. And this is just how I'm going to play my strategy moving forward. What up, Gem Breezy? Welcome back. Odyssey holding it down on the mod streets. What up, Lily? How are you doing?
We're scaring those things away.
Yeah, I won't lie. From my side, this is fucking brutal. This is going to extend the goddamn match for an extra 30 days. When do I get to stop doing these streams? Help. This is disrespectful in a way to the viewers. I got to tell you, I don't think that either of them give a shit about the viewers, nor should they. No offense. You guys are the lifeblood for channels like us and for the community as a whole, but that's not why they're doing this challenge, right? They're doing this for very, very selfish reasons. Maybe ego, maybe monetary, whatever the case may be, but this challenge still would have taken place if it wasn't available to the public eye, for sure.
This is for you.
Do you think it hurts him in any way pre-flop? PR wise, sorry. Or is that not even part of the calculus or valuable? I think both of these guys have both looked bad and good in the public eye, so I don't think either of them give a shit. I think the only thing that they really care about right now is bottom line. And considering we're closing in on the last 20-25% of hands, that is all that should matter, right? Like it's just about maximizing the spot that you're in, even if you're kind of in a negative spot like Daniel, where you're climbing from behind. If he's losing X big blinds per 100 and he can reduce that to fewer by taking his time, of course he should. That's absolutely insane to think otherwise. Jim Breezy says, question, why is half potting so bad? It's not that half potting's bad. There are definitely spots to half pot. Just only having a half pot size is very bad because it restricts you now to the hands that you're able or freed up to bet that way. Essentially, whatever size you choose, you're laying a price to your opponent, and you need to have enough EV to justify that size. So when you bet half pot, you can't bet a lot of your lower EV hands as you could if you were betting, say, third pot. And to the other side of that spectrum, when you bet half pot, now you get less value than you would for some of your strongest hands. So half pot has just become a very lazy average, where it's like if proper betting splits is maybe having a 33% size and a 66% size, a lot of people will just bet 40 or 50%. With a comparable range averaged out over the two. Essentially, you're just giving up a lot of EV. Maybe not a lot, but you're giving up some EV. Dom says, if he stalls the rest of this match, probably best not to be solo on stream. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll have to call in some favors and see. You know what I should do? Let me text Perkins. Let me text Perkins and see if I can get him on here. Wow, I'm finally caught up on the chat. That means that this break has been too long. Fire up some 510 WSOP or something. As you can see, I don't have any equipment in front of me. Yeah, what's going on WSOP, Andre? We got some 10 cent, 25 cent we can sweat. Phil Ivy says, Matt, if he keeps tanking, nobody's going to watch the stream. If you're right, then we'll just stop streaming. We don't have a contract with these guys. You know, we do it because we want to provide as much content to the community as we possibly can. We think we can do it a little bit better than some of the other ones that are out there. And, you know, a handful of you have agreed and tuned in. If you decide, like, this is unwatchable and suddenly all the numbers plummet, well then, okay, GG and Upswing will continue to do it because they do have contracts with these guys. Am I playing any tournaments tonight? No, definitely not. Especially since now it looks like this is going to go a little longer. This is a long break. This is a very long break. What do you guys want to talk about? Let's, oh, word. We got Perkins. Yep. I think he's calling me. Yeah, he is. Hang on one sec. Hey, what's up? You got Skype? Yeah. Just text me your name, and then I'll have Andre reach out to you and connect. Okay, cool. That's it. All right, just like that, we got a special guest. Let's fucking go. Obviously, Perkins is in Daniel camp, so we'll get a little bit of insight from what's going on that side. Dom says Perkins versus Berk heads up match coming soon. I gotta tell you guys, I don't have the passion for heads up the way that everybody else does. I never did. It always felt so personal, you know? Who's jumping on? We got Perkins on the way. Yes, sir. Hold on, Andre. I have a new one. It's an email address. Sending now. Benjamin Sardina says, "Can you roast Perk a bit for being some of those? Oh, for being a part of some of those big pots you took off him in Seminole Poker." Nah, that was forever ago. That was like the first time I ever played with him. Oh, they're back. They are back. Finally, we got action. You'll get, sorry, he can't hear me. I have voices in my head, you know, and I'm trying to talk to them right now, but you'll get to see the full match whenever you call in Perkins. I didn't notice. Is Daniel acting faster? I sure as hell hope not. Tick, 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 tick. This makes me so happy. It really shouldn't, but like it honestly makes me so happy. Interesting. So Benjamin Sardina says, Gelfond said that they're going to finish the last half hour of the match and that Negrano will play faster from the button. I'm not really sure I follow
I'm leaving
that.
you out, guys. I'll come back because I'm jumping on. Hello, guys. Can you see me? Just audio. Okay.
Here we go. The man, the myth, the legend, the one and only gas trader himself, Bill Perkins, joining the stream. What's going on with your boy, man?
We are, I don't know. I mean, Doug's thrown on some new twists and, you know, Daniel has to go to school again, right? Like he wasn't really prepared for this limp business. And I think it's smart by Doug to go ahead and implement that strategy. One, it's going to confuse Daniel, right? Like he's got to go to school. He hasn't really been prepared for responses to a limp strategy pre-flop. Never mind further down the game tree, right?
Right.
Flop, turn, river, and it's going to reduce his variance, right? Like Doug doesn't need to be having any more $300,000 losses, right?
Right.
$390,000 losses. Like that's not going to fare well when you're laying odds on side bets, right? So, Daniel's gonna take his time.
So this is strategy, right? Like this isn't just Daniel wants to get his goat and see Doug kind of get pissed off, call Galfond and kind of bemoan it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's strategic, right? Like he can't be whizzing through these scenarios having just learned it, for a couple hours.
Right.
And battling against like arguably, top 10, top 5 heads up, no limit poker player, right? Like, so that's part of it. And if Doug gets tilted off of that, well, that's just bonus, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm getting some sick, twisted pleasure out of this, to be quite honest. Because, it's like, I think Doug was very smart to implement a limp. I think it's what we were most critical of with Vinny Vidi whenever he lost the challenge to Galfond after being up $1 million. It was just like he never wavered. He was so convinced that he was making X amount of big blinds per 100 that he never adjusted his strategy, and Phil proved otherwise. Phil proved that it was just negative variance, and that given a slightly more volatile strategy, he could fight his way back in. So Doug having enough money on the line on the side, making that strategic adjustment and saying like, look, I'm trying to ensure that I finish this challenge up plus $1 because I have way more money out on the streets in side bets and I'm laying a huge price. That makes perfect sense to me. How the fuck does that translate into now my opponent made a counter strategy and I am livid?
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know if it's part theater, kind of like, the flop on the soccer field,
Yeah.
right? Like he pushed me, that type of thing going to rage to kind of maybe goad Daniel into playing faster. I mean, I think obviously if I was in Doug's shoes, I would want Daniel to play more tables and faster.
Yeah, of course,
right?
Of course, 100%.
And get this done. I don't want Daniel playing 100 hands and then going into lab and learning, what are the correct responses here.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think like, I don't know what took place in the Galfond mediation, and maybe you have something you can share there. I'm not really sure. It seems like the consensus was that Daniel was going to play faster on the button, but still be able to take his time on all other decisions, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we almost wagered on it amongst ourselves, or guys who were sweating it, that like there could be no decision except for there's nothing we can do. But
yeah.
Clearly, Galfond's was like, hey, on the button, it makes sense for you to act a little bit quicker, right? Not use the whole timer. And I can respect that because Daniel's not implementing the limp strategy, and
right.
There's no need to unnecessarily slow down the game in that scenario. So that's a scenario, that's a decision we didn't really think through, and I would have lost money on that.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I didn't think that there's any way that it could have been more than a 10-second conversation with Phil just rolling his eyes saying like, Doug, there's nothing against him utilizing his time back however he sees fit.
Right, but that button scenario is your first act. I mean, it's like, yeah, come on.
If
You
you
know what
have,
I mean?
if you only have one strategic option, then
Yes.
I understand where they're coming from there. So is this something from a viewership standpoint? Is this something we can expect? Like, is this match going to get dragged out?
I don't know, what's Daniel's head and his coach's heads as he gets better. Will he play just go straight to the randomizer, right? Mm-hmm. on his timing tells, etc.
Yeah.
But
right.
But will he play faster? I think he will.
I think that there's
Right.
like a compromise he could attempt to negotiate too, where he could say, listen, you want me to play faster? I want to drag this match out. Let's reduce it to one table, and I'll act accordingly in a reasonable amount of time.
He could do that, or he could be like, let's take a week break.
Yeah.
Let's take a week break and then go into the, he can go into the lab. And
I hope he doesn't do that though, because I feel like that is less favorable to him. If nothing else, just from a sheer emotional exhaustion standpoint. Like, Doug doesn't want to play another fucking hand of poker. He is ready to be finished. And even though a week adds to the length of this challenge, it's still a week where he's not playing. And he kind of gets to chill out a little bit. Sure, he'll be studying and whatnot, but you know, it's not the same as like having to show up 3 days a week and just participate in this grueling fucking match where you're against an opponent who's taking a minute 30 to finish every hand.
Yeah, it's definitely grueling. I mean, it's been a long match full of lots of swings. You know, and there's a lot of variance in this match. Like, you know, the whole thesis behind the bets is that the variance would be greater than the skill gap.
Sure. Which I think that there's a stronger argument for it now than ever. That
oh yeah, well, I mean, there's also the fact that Daniel, as time goes on, Daniel's going to get better at a faster rate than Doug will get better, because Doug's already at the top of his game, right? It's not saying that he can't get better. I'm just saying that the rate of change will be favoring Daniel, and therefore there will be skill compression.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, Christian and
as
I were
skill compresses, then you know Doug can't be X jillion to one favorite.
Right. Christian and I were talking about that in the early onset of the match, that it made sense for Daniel to play as little as possible in the early goings and drag it out as much as possible, especially like over the first 10,000 hands, because Doug just has diminishing returns to his study. At some point, he can't really dig too much deeper and find much more EV. Obviously that's not true. We don't know fuck all about this game in reality compared to like computers and sims and stuff like that, but it's unlikely that he's going to discover some like massive EV edge as he puts in more and more hours. It's also less likely that he's motivated to do so because he already feels like he has a pretty big skill edge. Whereas Daniel is just like rapidly picking things up. You know what I mean? It's like the first 10 hours of study may decrease the loss per 100 that he has by like 20%. And the second maybe 20 or 30 hours might cut it in half. So he's just like improving at such a rapid rate by comparison that it's not that shocking if they at some point reach a stalemate, even if only temporarily.
Yeah, I that was my thesis. Daniel has great coaches and a great program that is an accelerated learning program. And I believe in it. That was part of the bet, right? Like, it's like, okay, Daniel doesn't have this, he's just going to get mopped, right? Yeah. But he's got the wizards, and he's got a great accelerated learning program, which eventually, they can get programming. It'll be out to the general public soon. And that skill compression would get inside variance, and therefore he can't be a 5-to-1 dog or whatever it was people were betting at that time.
I gotta tell you, I hope that's right, because I took him at the worst price. And I feel silly not getting him at 6-to-1.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Like, there's a lot of variance. He's I mean, with this limping strategy, I don't know. I haven't run a sim on that, whatever. But like, I think I was told that if you have two heads-up player of equal skill set, the one standard deviation is plus or minus 40 buy-ins. Yeah. Right. So, I didn't think Doug was outside that.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. Right? That's a lot.
That's one standard deviation, and so, that I felt like Daniel was within that, and the laying the odds, or at the beginning, not even taking in the fact that he was learning, Yeah. The all-in EV right now is like Daniel's kind of like. He's probably net down 266,000, not including that. Right. Yeah. So, if that, those coin flips go the right way, or they work out perfectly as the EV plays out, Daniel's well within striking distance, and he's still in striking distance.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially if this match gets longer and they both kind of start operating in more shady portions of the game tree, if you will, like areas that they're a little less refined in. So I kind of said in the early portion of this match, or early portion of today's match, that some sweeping statements were made on both sides that I think are a little bit flawed and misunderstood. Daniel said that Doug is very obviously losing win rate by limping, and Doug said the opposite, in that adding a limping strategy absolutely adds EV to your heads up game. And I think both can be true, and neither can be unequivocally true. At least not in the developmental stage. So of course, complicating your strategy at any point of the tree will add EV, assuming your opponents don't respond perfectly, in which case now it's just neutral EV. So it is very likely that adding a limping strategy could increase his EV. So I think Daniel's wrong in that regard. But I think Doug just kind of insinuating that he's playing perfectly through the limping game tree is pretty crazy. They're both going to be in spots where they're like 50 to 100 SPR deep in post-flop scenarios. And those sims are very difficult to study because they're very big and complex. And then secondarily, the mistakes that are made off of that, if you make a 50 big blind mistake, or sorry, if you make like a 10 pot mistake on the river, that's a lot of fucking big blinds.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot to learn. And so I want the variance, right? Based on the bets I have.
No,
like,
we all do. Yeah, for sure.
All the side bettors who bet on Daniel are just like, we want as much variance as possible. Like,
right. Right, for sure.
So, I'm biased. I want action.
Yeah.
And if I can't get the action, I want Daniel to be as up to speed as he possibly can while he's playing.
Of course. I think that there's a chance that this doesn't play out like this the rest of the way. I think that if Daniel is able to stack up some wins and maybe cut into Doug's lead, we may see both less stalling and less limping. But I could be wrong because Doug is pretty strict to staying the course with strategy he believes in, and maybe a 5 buy-in swing isn't going to change his mind.
It may not. It may not. He may just want to go trade GameStop. He may forget poker. I just want to trade GameStop.
Tell me a little bit about that, because I don't know shit about the market, but I've been fascinated. I've been watching all day.
I mean, essentially, it's a crowdsourced short squeeze, right? Aided by some other hedge funds and front runners, et cetera, that an order flow. But it's a company that had $1.5 billion due in 12 months, was losing money, was in a really bad spot, right? Mm-hmm. New fund comes in, says we're going to try and turn it around. Put some people on the board of directors. People look at the short open interest and be like, hey, this can go, right? Sort of rallied the troops in ways that are actually blatantly illegal on the boards, right? But like usually the SEC doesn't go after small fries, right? They're not going to go after Joe 200 shares. But in this situation where people are blatantly being like, hey, we need to don't sell and all get together and we can stop guys out, right? Like they're saying these words. There's just like the evidence right there publicly of what they're trying to do, which is just blatantly illegal. And I hear all kinds of people, it's not illegal, freedom of speech, whatever. I'm just like, okay, show me your Series 3, your Series 2, your Series 1. Show me show me your training that you have yearly with on these securities regulations to spout that off. And the new head of the SEC is Gary Gensler, who used to be part of the CFTC, and he's a no-nonsense guy. Mm-hmm. So I would expect to see some enforcement actions.
Did you happen to catch Chamath's interview this morning on CNBC?
I saw pieces of it. I didn't catch the whole thing.
Okay, he was kind of saying that the only difference in this instance is that it's public money instead of institutional, and that what you're referring to is basically a Reddit thread or multiple Reddit threads, Reddit forum, whatever, right. Was basically outwardly saying like, this is our strategy, this is what we should do, and it's going to work. And Chamath was drawing the parallel saying like, the only difference is that they're doing it in the public eye, whereas institutional money is usually doing it with like brain trust meetings or VIP dinners, or they're basically discussing these strategies behind closed doors and still manipulating the market in their favor. Do you think that there's much weight to that?
Chamath would know better than I whether or not guys are having dinners and colluding, right? Mm-hmm. Like I don't know. I'm not privy to that. I mean, there's strategy session dinners and strategy, et cetera, like that. But I guess the only difference is that whether it's retail or not, there's a significant difference is that they're publicly and blatantly putting it out for everybody to see, like, we are going to do this. Like,
Yeah.
most people, when they go to murder somebody, they sneak around, they come in the back door, they try and cover their tracks, you know, and it takes like a whole team of CSI to analyze your hairs and whatever to catch you. These guys are like, I am going to shoot you in your porch at 3 p.m.
Right.
And me and my friends, they're going to come around the back and we're all going to blast you from all the whatever. And then they actually go and do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's also a difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
These guys are publicly stating what they're going to do and executing on it. Whereas in these other cases, the SEC has to kind of try and discern intent, right? Was your intent that you thought it was bullish and you want to buy it, or was your intent to run somebody out of their position, right? And that's really hard to prove, except for when you put it on a bulletin board.
Yeah.
Right? And you give instructions to your friends on what to do and how to execute on this, right? And so, you know, my thing is like, you know, I put out a tweet. I was like, you know, I would never post this. And people are like, oh, you're a rich Wall Street guy saying this. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to protect you from going to the clink.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
so I guess to that end, do you think that maybe this will buck the trend enough or ruffle the feathers enough that we may see some changes on the institutional side where maybe their feet are held to the fire a little bit more?
I would think so. I mean,
it's tough to say after like 2008 and nothing really changing. It's really difficult to say that this is going to move the needle, but I guess I'm just curious from your vantage point.
I don't know what to be changed. Like they have the rules in place, right? And it's just really hard to catch people and discern intent, right? Why are you buying? Because I'm buying because I think it's going to go up, right?
Yeah, right.
And so, you know, I don't know what you change. Like they're going to read your mind, right? Or what's going on, right? You can buy for any reason except to manipulate the stock.
Yeah.
Or to try to compel somebody else to do something else. And so
yeah. Chamath was kind of like insinuating that the public money was able to discern that there was an overdraw on the shorts, basically. So like the shorts were well over 100%, and they saw an opportunity there and just kind of capitalized on it. And he said this is commonplace for, again, I'm repeating because I don't know shit about the market, but he was basically saying like this is pretty commonplace for to happen on the institutional side, and it seems like everybody's feathers are ruffled because in this particular instance, the private money lost.
Well, if you're buying it, you're saying, I think there's too many shorts and I have to cover, and I think the market's going to go up, there's going to be buying pressure. That's legit. Mm-hmm. You go out and you say, hey, so-and-so, I think we need to make a run on this stock. Right. That's not legit.
Right. So it's the language and the intent.
You know, it's like whether you teamed up, whether you brought in other people, whether you created a conspiracy. I mean, there's all kinds of nuances and that, you know, I get lectured about because we're required to sit down and go through all these examples, right? Like of, you know, cases that have happened. And quite frankly, at least from the commodity side, they've been very aggressive and very expansive with their interpretation of rules. Things that you would think that were normal and okay, they're now kind of like, nah, we're going to fine you or attack you or, you know, harass you, et cetera. And so for me, it was quite shocking to see people publicly just bragging and boasting and posting it, right? They think, well, I'm just a small guy. I'm only Joe 100 lots. They're not going to come get me or whatever.
I still think that may be true, right? Like we might be seeing something similar to like the late 90s, early 2000s when Napster came out and everybody was being threatened for piracy laws, where it's like, if you download music, you're going to go to jail. And there was like, you know, one or two examples of some random college kid who like had the book thrown at him. But in reality, they just couldn't police it when it was all said and done.
Yeah, you can't. You can't get. How are you gonna get 10,000 people, right? So like it's like really, it's really like they're gonna look at the most egregious cases that are very easy, right, and try and make an example out of those two people to shut everybody else down, right? It's kind of like everybody's a badass until they get punched in the face, right?
Yeah.
So they're just like, let's punch 2 or 3 of these guys in the face, and then let's see if everybody else calms down with this kind of rhetoric and talk.
I'll be curious. Yeah, I'll be curious to see if there can be a potential snowball effect if the public domain is actually intelligent enough to maybe rally and create like that crowdsourcing type of atmosphere that we saw with music sharing. I mean, it changed the music industry forever, right? I don't think it's well outside of the realm of possibility to change the stock market as we know it.
Yeah, I just don't know how, right? I mean, it's just you have a lot of people in kind of this collaborative crowdsourcing slash I don't know what it is, like kind of we all pile into this stock, we all pile
Yeah.
into that, we
Yeah.
all sell this, etc. That is kind of wild. It's going to be out there, and they're intelligently. Let's take away the ethics and legality of it, right? They're properly attacking a weakness in the system,
Yeah.
right? In the way it is, and they're the rules are to be short is dangerous, right?
Right.
Because you have to have the shares, you can get bought in, you can get stopped out, you know what I mean? The price can go to any price, right? Whatever it prints, then the guys margin you and you just get margined out, right?
Yeah.
In the spike out, and you're forced to buy. Okay? Normally you don't see people coming in raiding and trying to stop people out of a company that looks like it's heading towards bankruptcy, right?
Right.
Like no profits, no cash flow, debt.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the momentum guys and these guys have figured out it doesn't really matter. If I print it at this price, you must buy.
Right. Yeah.
You must buy, and so must all your other buddies who are short, right? It's like Melvin Capital. Everybody keeps talking about that. They're not the only shorts getting hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were not 100% of the shorts.
Right.
Right. And so, it's quite ingenious, of them to do this. It's just that the mechanism of action is going to cause them some problems.
Yeah, that was kind of like what Chamath was saying, was that he was kind of championing for the little guy a little bit, where it was like, in a general sense, he was speaking to the pundit, and he was basically saying, like, you guys underestimate the intelligence of the public. And they're doing this very precisely and very intelligently. They just may set themselves up, obviously, for potential jail time.
Yeah, they're just missing the years of like people coming in office like, if you do this, you're gonna get investigated. If you do, you know what I mean? But in a way, they're kind of protected in the crowd, right? Only the people who are like clearly posting crap and doing this stuff and violating security laws, whatever. But the rest of them, they're just like, I don't know. Everybody else was buying. I thought it was. I was going to buy it. It was going up. There's nothing wrong with that.
Do you think
I'm not part of any conspiracy? I'm not part of anything. I just saw momentum and I bought.
Do you think guys like Chamath, kind of signaling off of his social media profile, that he's interested in dabbling, A, manipulate something like this, and B, he could be held culpable for it?
I think. There, I had somebody come out to me, and I took the opposite side, right? They were like, Chamath is walking a very fine line.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you are promoting a Reddit thread publicly to get in stock. So basically, as stock advice, thinly veiled stock advice, right?
Yep.
With retweeting a Reddit thread, and in that thread is a conspiracy, and therefore you're part of a conspiracy. Now, I was like, listen, that's specious reasoning.
Yeah.
I know these guys, they will try it if they can.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they love going after the big guy. If they could nail Chamath to the cross,
Mm-hmm.
they 100% would, right? But, my position was like, nah, Chamath's not settling, he's not quitting, and that's a bullshit case, you know?
Yeah.
But my friend was like, listen, has that ever stopped them before?
Right.
Like, Mark Cuban had to go all the way to the mat on a zero case, spending millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
To embarrass the SEC when they came after him for insider trading, which they had zero evidence whatsoever on, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, so my friend's point was like, that doesn't matter.
Right. And it's funny that like the SEC is willing to just like exhaust all those resources just to ultimately walk away with egg on their face in hopes of what? I guess sending a signal flare that they won't tolerate manipulation.
Well, I mean, you got to look at like where the money is, right? The enforcement budget of the CFTC and the SEC has exploded,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they hire all kinds of people and attorneys or whatever, and they have to justify that, right? So
right.
they're going to bring cases and actions. They're going to be looking at things that they shouldn't even be looking at, right? Like, what are you doing, right? You're just being a pain in the ass. You're being harassing, right?
Yeah.
So when they get something that they can sniff and they can like show their bosses and the public that, hey, this budget was worth it. You know, this gazillion-dollar budget that we have for enforcement was worth it. See what we did and see what we prevented. They're gonna go for it.
Yeah.
You know, guys make their careers off of these things, right?
Yeah, that's true. I guess there's probably a lot of people in that sector that are trying to move up the political ranks too. So it's probably pretty important that they have a resume to demonstrate.
Get promoted, move to some other division, move X, Y, and Z. It's like this is their rank. Like they don't get promoted sitting there,
right?
Doing nothing,
yeah.
right?
It's funny, the way that I learned about any of this stuff was watching Billions.
Yeah, they're all looking for their Gordon Gekko to take down, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, they're Michael Milliken or whatever, right? Like that's you know, they're protecting the markets, the integrity of their markets, and whatever they're supposed to be doing, and that's their incentive. And so people are like, oh, you know, a lot of people who've never dealt with an inquiry from the CFTC or SEC or had to deal with a lawsuit, like it is unbelievably overwhelming to deal with these issues, right? Like when you're facing these trumped up charges and fines and et cetera, like a lot of people buckle, right? Like that's the tactic of the FBI, right?
Yep.
They'll charge you with like 18 gazillion years and you'll plead to 5, right?
Sure.
Like, cause you want to see your daughter when you get out or whatever it is, right?
Their tactics,
So, you know, this is what they do. And you know, my dad was a criminal defense attorney and he told me like prosecutors, like their thing is like, we're not about guilt or innocence. That's for a jury to decide.
Right.
So this is going to ruin your life. In the
meantime.
I
mean, that's shitty too, because like, they have endless resources, right? They're not tasked with the bill to take this to the highest courts. And you know, if you're not Mark Cuban with $1 billion, you probably start pleading down pretty fucking quickly.
Yeah, you're looking for an exit to just off ramp, just to make it go away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like, my life is short. I don't have that much time to be doing this. I don't want to be whatever. What can I settle, neither admit or deny, and pay and make this thing go away? You know.
Yep. Yeah. Makes
we got
sense.
a nice little pot here on the left. Guess who I'm rooting for?
4-bet pot. We haven't seen a lot of these now that the limping strategy is implemented. Jack 4-3 2 hearts. Doug starts with a check. I'm a little surprised. I would have thought he was. Oh, sorry, it's a 4-bet pot. I'm an idiot. For some reason, I was thinking he was the 4-better. So Daniel goes with a quarter pot. No shock there. I imagine Doug has some small check raises. Mostly calls and folds, though. Heart should slow the action down. Check, I would imagine. Good, you were going to say something?
Yeah, it's not the best card in the world.
It's okay. It's okay. Daniel actually small bets here. So he goes a little under third pot. About quarter pot and wins. Yeah, I think that I think those spots are really interesting when the flush card falls, because ranges have narrowed so much. So you're right in the sense it's not a great card because you're mostly 4-betting offsuit hands and your opponent's mostly 3-bet calling suited hands. So that's bad for you. But it's also kind of okay because like you have a lot of equitable hands and he's just going to have a lot of hands that only had backdoor flush draws that now have to give up.
Yeah.
So your man's won.
I'm pretty impressed with Daniel's progress in his play. I think everybody is. Doug was actually impressed when Doug is not mad at Daniel for playing slow or whatever it is, or saying that he's lucky, right?
Yeah.
He's been. I think he would admit that he is impressed at the pace of Daniel's improvement.
I'm very, very impressed. And I know, like, I don't know how much of the stream you've watched. I've almost to the point where I wanted to text Daniel and like apologize. I've been hypercritical, but only because like I'm the sports fan here. Like he's my dog. I have a dog in this fight, and I'm rooting super hard for him. So it's just like there are some spots where it's like, like aren't we just past that point now where we're not gonna adhere to this bet size or whatever. So like I guess there was some frustrations on my side being brought out, but also just like the rate at which he has made himself a competitive heads up no limit hold'em player is fascinating to me in two capacities. One, just the ability to learn and retain that much knowledge that quickly, and then also apply it in a way that is working. But two, just the sense that there had to be a pretty big skill gap between Doug and Daniel to start. Even though Daniel has a long, illustrious career, it's not in the heads up streets, right?
No, it's a totally different game.
Yeah.
It's a totally different game. I didn't think it was that different, but it's massively different.
Yeah,
you know?
so it kind of tells me that either Daniel's chops are, or like his ability to meld himself into any environment and compete, are either far greater than anybody was estimating, or heads up no limit hold'em is actually maybe a little bit more digestible from a learning process than something like full ring or six max. And it could be it could just be both.
Yeah, but you're forgetting the third option, which I know, like you're soft why you have your teaching thing or whatever. What's going on is that Daniel has probably the most powerful accelerated learning tool there is.
Right. He just has pure data, right?
Well, it's more than that. He has access to the complete game tree and ability to understand it and learn it at game speed while playing.
Yeah.
And so it'll come out, and I don't want to ruin the big splash of how it works and what's going on, but like he has that tool available to him that no one has seen, right? I've seen it. A couple other private clients have seen it, and it's clearly. I would never have made this bet without that accelerated learning tool.
That makes sense.
You also have to be a good student, right? Like you can get into Harvard, but if you don't go to class, whatever.
Where do you rank on the
you can pull
student?
the Bill Perkins, right? Go to the college of engineering and basically chase girls all the time, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Where do you rank as a student in all of this?
Yeah, I'm like the worst of the worst.
Well, do you still have the Gelfond challenge going on?
Yeah, I do. And I actually can now probably execute the TOS. Like when I was, a lot of people are like, what's going on with that? One, I got to be out of the domestic United States.
Yeah.
But two, the way their TOS works, it requires you to say that, I have St. Kitts citizenship and whatever, but it requires you to say that you're not a resident of any of this place, right? Which really messed up my tax situation on where I was living. And I was like,
I see.
I can't sign that. You know what I mean? But that part has come to an end, and so we will be resuming, and there we go.
It's funny how a little bit of red tape can, like unforeseeable red tape, can just monkey wrench everything.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was like there's so much legal crap. It's unbelievable. I just go, well, it's either above or below my pay grade. I'll let those guys deal with it. I don't know which one, but it's not me.
Right.
I deal with it. Hey, who's in charge of the session profit? Let's update it. It's not 5K. What's going on here?
Andre's on it, man. He's on it.
It is 5K still? Oh my gosh.
They just had a swing. So Daniel won that 4-bet pot to take him to like 106,000 on the left, and then Doug won back-to-back pots on each table. That I believe the right table was 3-bet.
I guess it's the fan of me going, what's going on here?
This is a fascinating spot. So 9-7-3 single raise pot. We see Daniel come out with a big check raise here. Pretty close to pot. He's gonna have a lot of equitable hands. I imagine that with a size that large, well, the king being a heart makes it not a brick, is the thing. An offsuit king would have made it a little bit more bricky. So I think we're going to see hands like 9-7, king 9, and then sets and a lot of equity. Daniel
set of threes would be a nice hand to do that with.
Real nice hand to do that with. So would queen jack of hearts.
The match has been, I think, great for poker in general. I mean, we've all been locked, various stages of being locked in our houses, or not, and there's no live poker going on, and to speak, and so people have got a lot of opinions and they get to argue, and it's fun. There's been smack talking, etc. Right? Like, I'm appreciative that both of them are playing this game, right? Like, you can't. A lot of people are like, oh, I hate this team, or when they're playing, I hate this guy. I'm like, how can you hate the guy? Like, without him, you got nothing to do. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, you need a worthy opponent to conquer, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm happy that Daniel has become a worthy opponent, and they're battling it out. We all get to watch this.
Yeah, I agree. My initial text to Daniel was the day that he accepted it was, I'm so angry at you for making Polk relevant again. Because he's just such a force in the poker community, in the commentary space, in the content space, whatever. And I mean that both positively and negatively. It's just, the way that he goes about it, it's very trolly. It's very, I don't want to go so far as to say he's a straight up bully, but he uses a lot of bully tactics. And a lot of that is what got this match to actually come to be. He kind of pushed Daniel's buttons enough to the point where he couldn't take anymore. And I thought Daniel's response was pretty great, in the sense that he, without mincing words, was just like, this isn't about the money. I don't care about that. I'm going to be competitive in a way that he could never expect. And I think that that's what we've seen. It's been super entertaining. I said that last session when Doug started implementing a limp strategy, that is as big of a win for Daniel as it would be if he comes out profit in the plus when this is all said and done. He forced an elite player to make a strategic adjustment that was obvious to the audience.
Yeah. I mean, I'm proud of what he's doing. I think he's got, more to give. The only thing I ask of Daniel, when I talk to Daniel, is just do your best.
Yeah,
you do your best. I don't care what happens.
Yeah.
You do your best. I don't care. You win, lose, whatever. So be it.
Do you have any plans for any of these challenges in your holster?
I mean, I'm a terrible student. You know what I mean? I'm just distracted, things going on, tweeting, trading gas, traveling. So it's really hard for me to sit down in a game where these mistakes get very, very costly.
Right.
And so, but I wouldn't mind it if I got enough, big blinds per 100.
That's the thing. That was kind of what I was saying when Doug sat out because Daniel was stalling. I went on a pretty long tirade about how insane it is that he's bothered by this, where it's clear gamesmanship. But my sticking point was just you goaded this guy into playing you in a situation where this match would never in a million years take place without you spotting some number of big blinds per 100. And he just somehow accepted, he gifted you this spot of what may have been I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 20 big blinds per 100 to begin with. Maybe it's not that now, but at least, the first few thousand hands, maybe up to 10,000 hands, he was just basically spotting Doug 10 to 20 big blinds. To get so pedantic that you're going to throw a temper tantrum over the first sign of this guy making adjustments and doing things that are going to make your life a little bit more hellish, to me, it was just outlandish.
Yeah. I thought it was, I just felt like Doug got tilted, and he got tilted and it was dangerous. And that number dials down to 300,000 in the next couple of sessions. It's going to be,
that's all I want.
People are going to be sweating bullets.
Man, that's all I want. I just want this to be sub 10 buy-ins going into the final couple thousand hands.
Yeah. People will be sweating bullets, right? I'm pretty sure Doug has it in his hand. He has a calculator that's running when can I fold every hand?
He said that he's absolutely not going to do that. He said he won't make a single strategic adjustment that harms his win rate, which I don't believe. I guess maybe you can give me your opinion on that. I think his side action is too important. Otherwise, we wouldn't have saw the limps get implemented, because if it adds
it must mean the totality of his win rate, right? Because he's laying odds on the side, right?
Oh, well, he was strictly saying in game. He wouldn't even address the side bets. He just said he'll never make a strategy adjustment that hurts his big blind per 100.
I mean, if I were a guy who also laid odds, I'd be angry at that statement.
Of course. Of course.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's if you have it locked up with 200 hands left, he goes, I will never give Daniel back free money to win $1. That was what he said in his last post-game interview.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. And then there might be other things in a hand that he would call if Daniel overbets the pot, he might fold. And how could you even if he intended that, right? Like, how could he separate his brain out and his intentions? Like, how could he know?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like, it's like,
at some point you have to like be looking at the counter saying like, okay, I'm only up.
he's not trying to lose $2 million to win $1.
Right.
Like, he's just not that dumb.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
So
agree.
I don't care what he said, his pride or whatever. Like, he's gonna be like, I'm not here to lose $2 million to win $1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It comes down to that. Like, if it's like he's up, whatever, I don't know the math, but let's say he's up like $4,000 and there's 10 hands left, he's just folding. You know what I mean?
Right. And you know, to be fair, we can't see the whole card, so like at least he would be able to hide behind the mask of, oh, I just got really bad hand, like I got bottom 20% of distribution. That
I would be stone angry at somebody who executed that strategy.
Yeah, I remember during the end of the Galfond challenge when they were trying to figure out like at what point could Veni Vidi just fold his way out. I was so mad. I'm just like, my initial reaction was just like, no, like Phil laid you a price. You can't do that to him, yada, yada, yada. And then I thought about it a little bit more and it's just like, what the fuck am I talking about? Like, they obviously considered endgame before they made the bet. Like, Phil knew that there was a chance one or the other would be folding out. And it made for like one of the most riveting final matches we could have ever asked for. Because there were spots where like Phil was 3 or 4 betting, and it's like, if he just loses this pot, it's over. That's it. Like, this is the critical pot right now. He has to win, otherwise the match ends. And he flirted with that line like 4 or 5 times throughout the course of the match.
Yeah, that is what, you know, that's what the fans want to see. You know, we want to see action. We didn't come here to see, you know, this tit for tat, you know, type of thing. You know what I mean?
Especially when we can't see whole cards.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's an element, like the poker is male dominated. Most of the people I see in poker are UFC fans, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of kind of in your face, whatever. I'm gonna kick your ass, blah, blah, blah. You know, that type of thing. You know, that's what entertains.
Yeah. But it's also chess, and I think that like people can respect those end game strategies and the things that are, you know, taking precedent. Like, your overall EV is always going to take precedent, and if Doug has 5x the action on the side while laying a big price of like 4 to 6 to 1, of course he's going to fold his way out, right? Like, there's just no doubt about it.
I mean, I would not be angry at him if he did that.
Right, of course. How could
I
you?
wouldn't be angry at him. I'm just like, so be it. We tried.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, he takes a knee with 2 minutes on the clock. Like, what are you gonna do? If you're Daniel, you just recoup some of your lost big blinds and you call it a day. Like, you tip your cap to the guy. And honestly, from Daniel's side, it's such a win too. You know, if Doug's taking a knee up like 5 buy-ins, 4 buy-ins, something like that, nobody would have ever predicted. Like, I don't know what the spot was. I think I saw Rob Young tweet that he was getting 7 big blinds per 100. And you may have gotten even better.
I got 9.3 and 8.
Yeah, so it's just like, you know, if the final tally is -4 big blinds from Daniel's side, like, you guys crush.
Yeah, we're happy. I'm chilling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Daniel might be playing 200, 400, but I'm playing 600, 1200.
Right. Yeah. Let's go.
You know what I mean? So, you know, except I get a little bit of big every hand. You know, I get that little every hand played. I get a little piece, juice.
That's why you're sharp, and why I'm just sitting here hosting a daily stream show.
No. I mean, like I fired all across the board. I bet on the even money. I got the big blind bets. You know, I just believed in Daniel's work ethic and the training program, and then the rest was just like, I feel like it's positive expected outcome bet, you know, and it was just like, all right, fire it, and then whatever happens, you know. I could be wrong. I've been wrong a zillion times.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? That's how you accumulate wealth, is you find a bunch of bets that you believe in that are positive sum, and you just fire. And then,
I mean, that's what the GameStop guys are doing, right? There's like, this is positive expected outcome. If we could just buy this many shares, you know, there's no more shorts to be had. It's going.
Right. Wow. So Andre, our producer, was kind of filling us in on what's happening with the GameStop stuff. Apparently, the Reddit thread was forced to go private. Their Discord chat was actually closed, and it crashed. At least initially, the stock price by like minus $100, and now it's stabilizing around minus 50. I don't know nearly enough to know what that means as far as like the future of their play. Do you have like any insight on that, Bill?
I mean, this is a squeeze play, and eventually it ends, right? There's no fundamental basis on this valuation. I mean, the highest this stock has traded, I think, in its history, right? In the good old days when everybody bought their games at GameStops, I think it was like $55 or something like that.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So I mean, it's you know, it was roughly 6-7 times its highest price ever. Mm-hmm. This is when times were good, when it actually earned money.
Right.
Right. And so this always ends badly, and most people believe, you know, they'll get out before, you know, they'll wind up selling. You know, the dream is you buy it, the shorts buy at the top, you sell to the shorts at the top, and then, you know, you go home, you don't care what happens, right?
Yeah.
But based on what I saw, you know, this is the dangerous part of it. Like, there's a lot of people, you know, I guess they're punting what they can lose. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of people, because you know, shares would be available to borrow, not available to borrow. And, you know, when I was shorting it or trading it, I could see that, oh, no shares available to borrow. I actually got caught on those. Like, I was doing synthetic arbitrage, mm-hmm. basically getting long via the options and selling the futures, because the retailers long calls. And instead of selling the futures, they just sell the calls out.
Right.
So the calls get really depressed relative to the price, and there's an arbitrage. But in order to do that arb, you have to be able to sell a stock.
Yeah. And
so when the stock wasn't available to be borrowed, I was like, oh, there are people who are buying now in their cash account, right, and holding it. So there's new buyers if I can't short this.
Right. Right.
And at least that's my theory of what's going on. And so I'm like, okay, I might have got hurt getting short, but these guys are definitely going to get hurt being long. Some of them.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you know, Chamath Savi, right? He's out.
Yeah.
He bought the 150 call. He saw it could pop. You know, the thing traded 350 in the morning, like pre-market. It was, you know, I was selling 334s and stuff like that, like, right? And he, you know, he's out at whatever, made $1 gazillion, right? On his 50,000, a 500,000 option buy, and he's gone. So he's not going to be a guy holding the bag.
Right. Of course.
Right, but there's going to be somebody holding the bag.
Yeah, that was kind of the commentator's point today, was that you know, there's going to be some dumb money that should be protected in all of this, because they're going to buy into something they saw on the internet. And I guess Chamath's response to that is like, well, that's pretty much always the case. That's just the free market at work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's some truth into what Chamath is saying. It's just, you know, there's a level of camaraderie amongst these guys, right? There has to be to go in there.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's kind of, you know, it's a game of musical chairs.
Right.
And then, you know, the music does stop, and you want to have a chair. You want to have a sale that you can get out and what's going on. And, you know, I'm not saying it's the squeeze is over and the shorts are there, but eventually, you know, it was Krispy Kreme donuts, it was so-and-so, it was Volkswagen. Like, we've seen this before.
Right.
Like, it's nothing. The only thing we don't know is what is the absolute high print for this stock. Yeah. Right.
Why's your boy playing faster now? I don't like this.
I don't know. Maybe he feels comfortable. I don't know what was going on.
This is if I do have one criticism of Daniel long term, to be fair, it's a byproduct of like having to be versatile throughout the entirety of this match, but he's not very rigid when it comes to developing strategy, which is both good and bad, right? It's great when you're learning, because it allows you to kind of check your baggage at the door and just do better. But like, you know, the tanking was working and will continue to work for the purposes that you're trying to fulfill. Deviating off of it because you get a little bit bored kind of sucks.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to ask.
Yeah,
but I hear
big pots on both sides. This is a 3-bet check raise pot on the flop. Turn jack. Doug fires again. Daniel calls. Daniel's gonna have a lot of king, queen, jack. He'll have all the jack 10, obviously. He'll have all the ace jack. I think we could see some big bets coming through here from Daniel. Oh.
Whoa.
Oh, so it was a 3-bet check raise. That's a little bit different.
Whoa.
So Daniel just has a 10 there, I would imagine. Very likely a good 10, like queen 10, king 10.
You got a lot of sticky for that thing. I mean, Doug doesn't have that many bluffs in that scenario, but Daniel got pretty sticky there.
Doug's turn bet is pretty interesting. Super thin. He blocks king queen, which is one of the hands he's trying to charge. The jack comes, which is obviously a pretty big negative, and he starts folding out hands that Daniel might consider bluffing with. Because I think he bet pretty big on the turn. I think he bet like 66%. So he gets max from a 10, obviously. But I would be curious what that turn strategy is supposed to look like with kings. I imagine it's a pretty low frequency bet.
Yeah. You're the expert, not me. I don't understand the call.
Yeah, you got the dream machine over there, man. Let's dial it up.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, what does he have in his hand that he's calling on a paired board, and Doug's firing like it was going out of style?
I mean, it just has to be a 10, right? Jack 10. I think it was Jack 10, 8, Jack Ace. So a hand like 10-9 probably makes a ton of sense, or Queen 10. Seems like those make the most sense. No reason to bluff them on the river. The ace is obviously a really bad card. Very small one with the 8 high flush there for Doug.
Yeah.
Is Daniel still, maybe you don't even know this, but I guess I'll just ask your opinion. Do you think Daniel is still operating under the 2-hour time constraint and get the hell out of here, get back into the lab kind of mentality?
I think he's using the force, Yeah. I think he's figuring out how the game is flowing, what he thinks the current meta is, and, he'll use the force. If he feels it's good, then I think he'll play a little longer. And if he feels like it's neutral or bad, or he's in a spot where he's lost in a couple hands, he'll have to call it and hit the lab.
I'll tell you what, just from a sheer annoyance factor, I think I would quit at the 2-hour mark every time if I were him. Like, it's a lot more exhausting when you're not in the game flow, right? It's very easy to kind of just like lock in, randomize your spots, run them the way that your frequencies are supposed to run, when the cadence of the game is exactly what you expect it to be. It's always a button raise. It's always a 3-better call, right? Like you just stay within game flow. Now we add this other thing, and this other thing also comes with like super small pots that we're kind of disinterested in emotionally. That would make me check out pretty quickly. Kind of like when Daniel takes a minute 20 every single hand to act, Doug probably checks out pretty significantly. Yeah, and for me, not knowing how much Daniel's absorbed, I would be in favor of making these shorter sessions for him. Yeah. I will say this much at this point. I'm pretty confident that he tastes blood and he wants to fucking win badly. So I think that, I don't know what the previous 19,000 hands looked like as far as like his willingness to just be all in on strategic adjustments and hitting the lab and stuff like that. But I would make a strong guess that these next 5,400 hands, he is going to do everything within his power to increase his win rate. Yeah. Or at least from a perspective of somebody who bet him, I sure as fuck hope that's true. Yeah, I think he's got to do that. He's got to hit the lab, and he's got to have the pot start a little bit bigger. Yeah. Right? Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Especially like, if we end up playing 300 hands today that are effectively break even. It's weird to play in a scenario like this where you have that ticking clock over your head. Yeah. But it makes it exciting, right? It's like, oh no, only, I love the counter you guys put up. I told you guys, you got to put up the hand counter so we can know how much is left. It's like a sports thing, right? Yeah. Like, guys are sweating it like shit, Yeah. Andre. Real-time sports, really great. I also like that you got the Bitcoin up top. I mean, you got some good shit going on here, Berkey. I think there's a lot we can do. Andre's kind of a sick genius behind the scenes. He built the hand counter, like he just wrote a script for it, which is impressive in and of itself. Yeah, I think there's things we can do to mess with like the overlays. Obviously, if we could get hole cards, like it would just be a game changer.
Yeah.
Huge river raise here by Doug. I didn't see the action up until this point. Looks like it was either a 3-bet pot that checked down or a single raise pot that went bet maybe 2 streets by Daniel, I would guess, and then a raise by Doug. There are the dots. It looks like we've hit the 2-hour mark. I'm imagining Daniel's going to sit out. And that...
It's over.
This will probably be the last hand. Maybe one more. I'm not sure if they have to get the buttons aligned. Is that what they try to do? Whoever started the match on the button, then the others try to end it on?
That's my understanding, but...
Yeah. That's taking fairness to the absolute most minor quality. Though I think that it's... Oh, Daniel's back. What happened here?
Or is he waiting for? Or is he waiting for? I don't know.
Yeah, it was kind of strange. Oh, maybe it's not 2 hours yet because of the timeout with Galfond.
Yeah, we had to go to Dr. Calfon and get a ruling.
Yeah. So okay, so that's my best guess as to what's happening. So this isn't over yet. We probably have another. I don't know what was that timeout, about 12, 15 minutes, give or take. We have a small amount of overtime, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's like a soccer match. We had stoppage time.
I'm 39 years old this week, and I've watched more soccer than I care to admit to. I still, for the life of me, have no idea how they factor in overtime in soccer into like the in-game strategy. How the fuck do you know when the game's gonna end?
Yeah, it's kind of. I guess somebody shouts at the ref like, "How much?" You know?
Yeah, or maybe like each bench has a stoppage clock that they're keeping tallies on, and maybe that's part of the strategy. Is like the more accurately you can measure that, the better of a game plan you can come up with. But it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, my daughter's soccer game. I can just go, "Hey ref, how much time?"
Where are you currently at? Austin?
Right now, I am in Houston.
Oh, you're in Houston now. Was Austin just a temporary stop?
No, I actually bought a vacation home in Austin.
Okay.
For the family, and so
seems like a good investment right now, given the mass exodus of San Fran to Austin.
Yeah, I mean, I I'm gonna die with the property, or my kids are gonna have it. It's gonna be their problems, etc. You know, I made the investment in order to create memory dividends with the family. You know,
makes sense.
So I was like, I got daughters that kind of like don't want to hang out, but if I get a nice place with a lake or whatever, they'll bring their friends. They'll come. I'll get time with them, that type of thing. So that was the main thing, and I can bring my home, my mom, whatever, family compound, all get together.
Sure.
So and create some memories. So. I did get offered 10% to get the hell out 7 days after I bought it.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Just like that, huh? Own it for a week. Here's your profit.
Yeah, I had no intentions of paying in this price range or buying this place. So I went down to go look at places in Austin, and it was bonkers, the prices. I was like, what? This is Texas. Like, this is not, Malibu.
I've heard it's just
whatever.
like, yeah, I've heard the properties have just like massively inflated there.
And they have no supply. Like, I thought, like, whenever you're going to buy something like a car or whatever, and the sales guy's like, we only have one left, and another guy is looking at it, and you always think it's like a tactic, right? Like to get you to buy it or whatever. And we went to look at the place, and it's like, oh, we have a bid on it just as you're getting it. And when I saw the place, I fell in love with it. I was like, this is it. Like, I already had like future dreams of hanging out and throwing parties and hanging out, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna bid to my I'm gonna try and lowball and get like X off, right? Then it was like, oh, get a bid, and I was like, crap, now it's competitive, right?
Right, yeah.
And then on top of that, they're like, oh yeah, and another guy from California is flying in this week to come look at it.
It's brutal, man.
I was like, shit, if a guy from California, it's like, they're gonna buy it, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're used to paying ridiculous prices for
Yeah,
property,
yeah.
and when they're saving 14% on their taxes, it's almost like the property's free, right?
Right.
Even though to me, I'm like, this is a gargantuan amount of money,
Yeah.
right? And so, long story short, I've been, my exact indifference point. They asked if I could move quickly. I said, nobody moves faster than me. So I got the property. And then really like 7 days after I closed, they were like, I have an unsolicited offer to a buyer who wants to pay you 10% profit to leave.
It's insane. I mean, like you're literally saying no to 6 figures immediately. Just immediately, right?
Yeah. I had to. I mean, I couldn't replace it. I was like, I did this whole thing. Like, I was like, I didn't tell my daughters I bought it. I took them down for the 3rd viewing. I said, what do you think? And then, I surprised them. I said, yeah, I got it. It's yours. It's a family compound. We're all going to, whatever. There's crying and tears and happiness. And,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to go, oh, sorry, I sold it for.
Well, you can get a place that's 10% more expensive now, Bill.
Yeah, no, you can't, because there's just no more land.
Yeah. Yeah,
right? It's like you want to be on a river, you want to be on a lake, like you're trying to build this hands. Like I was thinking, I like literally thought, I was like, okay, can I cobble together a couple lots and do whatever and make it? And I was like, no, man, I'm 52. It's gonna take me a while. My daughter's gonna graduate next year. I don't have time for all that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it's fascinating what's happening with all the tech industries moving to Austin. I think San Francisco is going to be in a really bad way in the next 5 to 10 years. There was already massive issue with drug usage and homelessness. I actually did a keynote speech there for the Recovery Center, and you see it, you see both sides of it, right? There was so much wealth in Silicon Valley, but there was also so much poverty. And now with all of that wealth and all the jobs and companies that come alongside of it leaving, what does that place end up looking like? It's going to be in ruins.
I mean, I don't know. It's just that California policies are driving the productive people away.
For sure.
Highly productive people away.
Yeah.
And the signals they're showing where they want to go in their tax regime and rules and laws, et cetera, is even worse, right? It's bone chilling. And so the 1% in California pay 48% of the taxes there.
Wow.
So you can't really stomach too many of them leaving. It doesn't really take that much of an exodus to really hurt your tax base.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
That's what I mean. I think it's possible that they just are bankrupt within the next 5 years.
Well, I have another friend that has a tech company, startup, whatever. He moved to Austin. And other people are moving. I know a lot of people are moving. And then also one of the things we do, we track it for natural gas use is we figure, well, what indicators can we get real time that where people are moving? And we started scraping U-Haul one-way rates. Mm-hmm. So California to Texas and Texas to California, and then looking at the difference. Right. And that kind of gives you indication of where people are moving. Right. And then I tweeted out a map of it, like what the data shows. So we scrape that. We look at, other demographic data. We try and pull licenses, total licenses in a state, what the month, year on year change. And all the anecdote and all the data is like Texas, Austin, San Antonio, Miami, Florida, the warmer states in the South with low tax, low cost of living or whatever. People are fleeing these high tax, high cost of living states.
Right. I mean, obviously it makes sense, especially to go to places where there's no state income tax. Where else would you rather operate a business?
Well, yeah, not only that, like where they're talking about wealth tax and all kinds of capital gains adjustments, and it's not there, right? They put a bill out, right? Whatever, but it's like, the writing's on the wall, and people are like, this is the last straw. And then I think also, the whole forced experiment on remote work has got people going, wait a minute, why do I need to be here?
I'm super excited for short-term societal gains from work from home. To me, especially somebody who's never grinded a 9 to 5 and never had that desire, it just seems so much more productive, and people get so much of their time back.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest raises you can possibly have.
Agreed. Agreed.
Because
I think sacrificing money for work from home privileges is like a no-brainer.
Well, you net make out, right? Because you get the commute time back, right? So that whatever your hourly time is worth that for each time.
The unpaid lunch hour.
Yeah, the fact that you can now, a lot of people are forced to pay for a more expensive apartment or home in order to be close to work.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So there's that hidden tax, that housing tax of like, yeah, I work at so-and-so and I got to live here in order to, be within 20 or 30 minutes. So my commute isn't ridiculous. Right. So you're paying, an extra 1,000, 2,000 or whatever, 100, whatever it is, just to be close to work. That doesn't show up. Right. Like people don't think about that. But now it's like, oh, I don't necessarily need to live in this crowded whatever place. I get that money back. I get my time back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it also brings industry potentially back to like more rural areas because now you'll see more affluent people populating those areas because they're not forced to be city dwellers.
Yeah, and exactly. And now it's like I can live where I want to. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
I can live. I can work for somebody in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and live in Sarasota, Florida, or vice versa.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And so now you're really you're getting more variables to design the life you want.
Yeah. I think that freedom is not just great, but something that should be taught to everybody to some degree. Because I think for a long time, we've been abiding by the constraints of the Industrial Revolution, where it's just like everything that we know and cherish as far as our tradition goes with regards to life, relationships, work, whatever, it's born out of the idea that you're going to work on an assembly line and just stamp product for 8 to 10 hours a day, or mine a mine, or work in the steel mill, or whatever the case. Those jobs are done. That's not where we add intrinsic value any longer, right? Like we are the brains behind the algorithms now. We're the people doing data mining, and it's not brute force labor any longer. So we can't really construct life around the concept that that's the way our resources are best spent.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's the changes happening right now. Changes are accelerating, and I think one of the bright spots out of this pandemic is that corporations and small businesses that are knowledge-based business or office-type businesses were forced to run this experiment, whereas before they were like, no, I can't take that risk. What if it goes wrong or whatever? And they're finding out, wait, it's more productive. My employees are happier, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. As long as I get them set up with like noise-canceling headsets, or make sure they have a comfortable chair, or whatever equipment or processes.
Very cheap overhead. Very cheap overhead.
Yeah. The lead, then it's like, because I have people in my office, in the trading office, they didn't need to, but they were commuting from Sugar Land into Houston, which is like hour each way.
Right.
I mean, to get 10 hours a week back of your life.
It's
just amazing. Like now you're catching your kids' games after school instead of like, oh, I missed it because of traffic.
Right.
It's just you're spending time with your neighbors. You're having lunch with your neighbors and getting to know people in your neighborhood instead of always having lunch with people at work. You're developing better social skills. A lot of people are dependent on their socializing with work.
Yeah.
Right. So then when they retire, they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't have any friends. I don't know anybody. Right. Like,
also, secondarily, it allows you to create value too, right? Like a lot of people who are forced into traditional 9-to-5s where they are kind of a cog in the machine and aren't necessarily adding value. They're just adding a skill set that's necessary for the company to flourish. Well, now they have all those extra hours back. And if there is a passion project or some riskier endeavor that they want to take on, they could potentially be a second source of income that does add value somewhere. Like that's an opportunity that they can actually capitalize on because they're not putting in the traditional 40 any longer.
Yeah, I don't disagree. You and I are pretty much on the same page on this one, on the benefits, and I think it's going to unleash a lot of creativity and fulfillment.
And I think that's the direction we have to go, right? Like technology is going to replace us as far as brute force labor goes. Machines are just smarter and more efficient than us.
Yeah, and certain fields for sure are faster than others.
Yeah, right.
It's just, I've been working, like I went into this field and trading because, and the way the technology is because the freedom it affords you both financially, but also remotely, right? Like like people are like, are you still working? I'm like, I'm always working, right? But my research comes on my phone. I can see whatever. I've got this big screen phone. It has this, my trading, everything, right? Like, I that allows me to go anywhere and make my office anywhere. Otherwise, I would have quit a long time ago.
Right.
Right.
Big pot here on table 1. I think this went 3-bet, C-bet, double barrel by Daniel. The Jack of Clubs comes in on the river, which is a tough card. That makes sense. He turned 2 pair with the 10-6 suited. Jack's obviously a pretty bad card for his range. Specifically the Jack of Clubs. All right, that's going to level things a little bit. I think that will move Doug down to like maybe plus 23, 25-ish, something like that.
Yeah.
Just low-key winning a half a buy-in. Just like he wants it, man. This is exactly what he wants. A nice, slow, small grind. Chipping away at the hands. Could you imagine? This is a guy who was ready to back the fucking truck up.
Yeah.
Had it in reverse. Horns ablazing.
I mean, that's, yeah, you know how it is. It's like, at the end of the day, the fighters respect each other, right?
Yeah.
This is a dangerous game. It's a lot of risk, a lot of stuff to memorize and learn and react to. And you got to respect somebody who gets in the ring, right? Even if you beat their ass, right? Like,
sure.
And so, Doug seeing what happened to him the last session, realized about variance, realized that he can make mistakes, realized that Daniel can run good. And he's like, wait a minute, I need to shift gears here, right? And so,
I mean, at the end of the day, you're right. Winning is absolutely everything. I think maybe I just have like a little bit too deeply of an instilled sense of pride in me, where I wouldn't want to say things that could ultimately be just thrown back in my face later.
Yeah. I mean, I think the proper statement is I'm going to do everything I can to win.
Yeah.
Maximize dollars in my pocket.
Yeah.
That's the statement.
Yeah.
Like,
Sizable pot brewing here on table 1. 13,000 in the middle. Daniel bet the turn. Checks down correctly on the river as Doug rivered the 3rd nuts. Love to see it.
Yep. Don't give him any value for calling.
That's right. Get him. So I know that you and Daniel share coaches or your team or whatever. Have you been a part at all of any of the training, or like have you like eavesdropped and sat in?
None of the heads up training. Daniel's got to go. I don't want to interfere with that.
Yeah.
Daniel's got pride, money, everything on the line.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I just got side bets.
No, I didn't. I guess let me reframe the question. I wasn't asking if you had any input. I was just more so saying, like, are you sitting in just to collect information yourself?
No, after the fact, I may ask, like, what did he learn? What did we go over? What did we learn?
Yeah,
What's the strategy, et cetera?
Yeah, I know. Like being a part of an inner circle like this, like it is kind of like. Well, like you're the cut man, I do
put my 2 cents in. I'm like, will you please unlock the overbets? That
right.
type of stuff. Like I want to see more overbets.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you're a part of the squad in some regard. Like whether you're the cut man or the hype man or whatever. Like you're in that corner.
I'm in the corner. I am rooting for certain things. I haven't seen it today.
Mm-hmm.
Things I'm rooting for, but it might be a function of this new limping strategy. It may be a function of what's going on and the hands he got, but I would love to see more substantial bets.
Yeah. I would love to see him go back to taking his time in banking down, even though it's unbearable to watch. And my initial reaction to it was, I can't fucking do this. If he's going to do this for the entire stream, I'm out. But my secondary reaction to it is just fucking do it, man. Like, for the lulz, for just for all the shit talk, but also just for the sake of strategy. Like it just, there's no way around it. It absolutely benefits him.
Yeah.
A couple small ones going Daniel's way on the right. This is a real. I don't watch much boxing, but this reminds me of a Pacquiao fight, where it's just, or a Mayweather fight. Like, you just know no one's getting knocked out. You're just seeing a bunch of jabs getting exchanged, and you can tell that, like, when it's close competition, it's always going to go to the scorecard, and you maybe not be able to tell necessarily which way it's going to do.
Yeah, it's like the super flyweight category. It's a great fight, but nobody gets knocked out.
Yeah, like, you really have to be passionate about the sport to just be in there on every single punch thrown and be like, oh, yes, another 4 big blind pot. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. I wish they would do the last 2,000 hands live, but
yeah, I agree. I don't think either one of them seem to have interest in that, though. Despite it obviously favoring Daniel somewhat. I think just like with COVID being what it is, the idea of playing in a studio for 10 days straight probably doesn't.
Yeah.
That would be real torture for Doug. Like, for somebody who just wants to, like, collect his check and go home forever, right off into the sunset, the idea of having to drive to the strip 10 days in a row, hang out in the Poker Go studio, play 20 hands an hour, one tabling.
Yeah, I wonder if COVID didn't happen, would this match have happened?
It's a good question. I guess only Daniel could really answer that, right? Because
Doug probably was bored, right?
Yeah, to some degree, but I mean, like, he also sees a profitable opportunity. He may have just, like, continued the fire on Daniel no matter what. But there's a big reason it hasn't happened in the past. Daniel's just a busy guy. He travels a lot. He plays the circuits. He plays the high roller fields and things of that nature. I wonder how dialed into that stuff he would have been had he... Yeah, I guess, like, had COVID not been around. Like, I don't know if he still had planned on traveling or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been told by the brain trust that Doug stopped limping, so Daniel's playing faster.
Oh, okay. That's fun. I didn't even notice that. I didn't notice that Doug went back to a race strategy.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Daniel countered an annoying strategy with a strategy that's more annoying, and they just agreed to go back to normal play.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at that. True games.
The counter to the limp is to be annoying. I'm going to write that down in my little book of poker here. Jeez. So, of any of these cryptocurrencies, are you in any of them?
Only Bitcoin, and I'm balls deep, Bill. Balls deep. Yeah.
Balls deep. I like that. Hold on a second. Hello? I don't know, but I don't know. Yep. All right. Talk to you later. That was one of my side betters going, hey, did they make an agreement? The guy got 9.3 big blinds per 100.
Oh, okay. Well,
He's sweating it.
since they've changed their style of play, we've seen a lot more big pots. Obviously, the swings have been more to what we're accustomed to. We find ourselves in a river spot here on the left where Doug's betting 2/3 pot in what I assume was at least a 3-bet pot. Deuce 8 6 King 3, and he's gonna scoop. Hate to see it.
Hate to see it.
It's brutal. Man, imagine if this just like the thing is it kind of becomes a small free roll for Daniel, because like if somehow this worked out where Doug just won 10 buy-ins, that would be disheartening and suck pretty bad for Daniel.
Yeah.
But like whatever, you were willing to ramp up the variance and take your chances. If Daniel rips off like 5 or 10 buy-ins because time banking annoyed Doug so much that he swapped his strategy out for one that favored Daniel's counter, that would be something else for sure.
Yeah, it would be. I would love to see it.
Yeah, I can't even like really imagine what the conversation turns into if that starting balance just reads 000. I mean, like where oh, what a brutal run out.
What a brutal situation there.
The pot got shipped to him, and I couldn't even figure out why. I'm like, I don't understand. He has 9 high.
He had the baby sucker straight.
Yeah, yeah.
In the river.
Really had the hand you don't want to see.
You bluffed and got there.
Yeah, the old no pair, no real draw. Probably going to fire a huge shell on the end if it doesn't find a 10.
Yeah, he's pretty good at that. I don't,
The amount of variance that you're forced to endure when it's just you and someone else in the cage like this, it really does give you a healthy respect for like what these guys who are putting in millions and millions of hands kind of go through and how they change their viewpoint of the game. Because from a live guy perspective, I've said this a bunch. Like when I watched Daniel's post-game interviews, I was like, he's still just such a live guy where we're so used to being in an environment that's controllable because the amount of hand samples is so small that it hurts when a cooler happens because you feel like that's the only way they can get you, right? But here, It's just like you're going to see 1 an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what Daniel's having in his hands that he's calling and I guess ace high.
Yeah, I missed that one. But ace high seems like it makes a lot of sense on a board that sixes could value bet.
Scaring those things away.
Doug goes with the overbet. 2 pair. Got snap called by Daniel. I imagine that's a hand like Queen X.
King Queen.
King Queen. Yep. That would make a lot of sense. 4 bet by Doug on table 2.
Whoa, 4-bet call. And a very spicy flop.
Very spicy flop. I would imagine Daniel has... They probably have shared amount of Jack 10s. Daniel might have a slight edge on the Jack 10. Doug chooses very small, 1/5 pot, and wins. Maybe this was all a rub-a-dope scenario because Doug's aggression is ramped the fuck up right now.
It's ramped up and it looks like, he's got bluffs on flops and turns, but he's under bluffing on the river.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, I mean, it looks that way at least from Showdown.
Right? Like I can't see his cards or whatever. See a couple things wrong.
Yeah, it's just more so when he tables it, or when he has tabled it, he's had good hands. So whether he's on a rush or he actually is under bluffing is difficult to say. Daniel donks turn here on the right. Jack 8-6, 2 diamonds, turn 8. He leads for 10% pot, gets called. I imagine we'll see a lot of big betting and a lot of checking. He does check. 6 is good. I guess Doug likely to have ace high there. Ace high diamonds maybe. Can't bluff river.
Yeah, I asked Doug, I said, are we going to see every single hand? He said that'd be hard to do. I understand why. But it'd be really interesting to have all the hands revealed after this match. Right?
I agree. I think that, I think it would be interesting. I also think it would be, I don't want to go so far as to say game changing, but I do think that, there would be elements of heads up poker that may be influenced moving forward if we were able to see 25,000 hands of an established pro and somebody who's learning to close that gap, right? Because at a bare minimum, we could see where Daniel went from losing money to no longer losing money. And I think that that's worth a fuck ton to anybody who's attempting to learn poker as a whole, but specifically learn heads up. I think the big challenge is that WSOP software just doesn't offer an easy way for that to occur. And
they'd have to agree to do it and then put it out. And
even if they agreed, I don't know how well 888 would be able to facilitate. I mean, maybe they could email each of them a complete database of their hands. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It'd
be good. And everybody can go in and be like, okay, who actually played better versus what happened? You know?
I mean, there's meat on the bone, man. Doug is a profit-driven dude. If he can get the hands, and Daniel will agree, I certainly could see a $9.99 upswing course in the future.
$9.99. Yeah, $9.99. Call now.
Yep.
Get a free T-shirt.
Yep. Doug comes out of retirement for an extra like month to promote it. Does some of the commentary on it, whatever.
I wouldn't blame him. I mean, it's been grueling. They if they can get some sort of
Yeah, I think the payoff for that would be very big for his company. I imagine that it's not out of the realm of possibility. They could easily do 7 figures in revenue on something like that.
I also thought like this match could have gotten a little bit more hype, TV time, etc. Like some coordinated marketing for them, but also for the poker universe. You know.
Yep.
I mean, with Sheldon passing, that's a big voice against the legalization of online poker everywhere.
Yeah.
Again, being against, and it's no longer there.
Right.
So might be, we might be, a year or two away from back to the good old days.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still challenges that lie ahead. I think everybody's of the impression that it's just been regulation that's been holding this up, but there are other issues like specifically shared liquidity. So I know that California hasn't come into play, not because of lobbyist or regulation, but because they refuse to share liquidity with anybody. So now operators don't really have much incentive to, pay absorbent costs to get into California, only to be restricted from sharing that prize pool with, or the liquidity pool with other markets that they are players in. And I think like for the inverse, that's why like Stars hasn't put any effort into coming into Nevada. The market's just so fucking small, and they have so much red tape that they have to jump through getting a physical place and whatever else to try to compete for a tiny little liquidity pool.
Yeah, but there seems to be friends of the court that just want to be like, just remove all federal barriers.
Yeah, that part I think would be pretty interesting. So I wonder, okay, so like from that examining from that point, do you think that means a potential quote unquote unregulated market re-emerging? Where like licensing and gaming isn't necessarily needed?
I don't know. I mean, I need to talk to my friends who are closer to like, the lobbyists and the rules and what's going on and what's holding them back, right? And the things the obstacles are going, so I can really talk on it. I think we should probably get Rob Young on the phone and see what he thinks.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's probably pretty dialed in, especially with
Let
party.
me see if I can call Rob and see what he says.
All right. Let's get fucking Rob on the phone.
Let's see if we can get him on the phone. I'm calling him. It's giving me that UK ring, so he's probably asleep. He should be sweating this match, though. Not sleeping, but...
What time is it? Are there 9 hours ahead? Is that right?
From you, there's 6 plus 6 or 7 from me. Yeah, he might be out. See, I just got a CNBC update. Chamath closes his position.
That was this morning. What are they talking about?
I know, but they're just putting it out and writing it. At the end of the day, they put out their blurbs and blah, blah, blah. We got a nice little war bet.
Let's go. That one gets through. I wonder now that they've both reverted their strategy back to default, if Daniel's planning on playing longer. We've crossed the 2.5 hour mark. It seems like the injury time, so to speak, from when they were off talking to Galfon has passed, and he's still out there swinging.
Yeah, I think Daniel's comfortable where he's at. I don't know. Doug's swinging in the positive. He from what I've seen, Doug tends to play. His play teams tends to be correlated with his P&L.
Okay.
Right. The quality of his play is correlated with his P&L, and so, this is not big up, but I think that's true with a lot of people, right? Like when they're down, they play worse, right? Even if they're playing well and variance just got them down, they start making bad decisions,
right?
When they're down, and so, but Daniel's probably feeling comfortable. And wants to see where this can go. I mean, one buy-in, obviously, in a volatile game of heads-up, no-limit poker is not that much.
Yeah, I mean, there may be a part of him that just thinks like, oh, well, I have to capitalize on this because he might go back to the limping strategy on
limping
Friday.
Strategy.
Yeah. I'm at least surprised he hasn't taken a break. Usually Daniel is very quick to break on the hour every hour.
Yeah.
He's really slinging it.
I mean, it's sling time, This match has been going on for, if he's playing in the area of no limps and areas he's comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And he's, he's going to go for some spots where he gets lost or whatever, but he's gotten pretty good and the skill is compressed and he's ready to go. Then, hey, I have no problems. We lose.
That's
fire.
That's the truth, right? At some point, these 5,200 hands have to be played. So no better time than whenever you're feeling pretty locked in. Block bet by Daniel here on the right. King 9, 8, 9. I think this was a single raise, check raise. 4 of hearts on the river. I would imagine we're only going to see checks and big bets out of Daniel there. He has ace jack high, loses the 6s. Tough to shake that Polk off showdown value, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I know. You gotta be willing to empty the clip.
That's true.
Like I played Doug heads up, having fun, and I only did well against him when I put him in bad spots. Mm-hmm. Right. And you just got to be willing to. He didn't know if I was bluffing, value betting, or whatever. I just come at him on the turn.
Yeah.
1.75 pot, whatever.
Yeah, and in a small sample, you can get away with that type of shit.
Yeah, like I get in, but then go into a value heavy, show up with value a lot of times, and then he's just like, I don't know where I don't know where I'm at.
Right. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
There's before where you're just leaking. You gotta empty the clip on Doug sometimes because he's sticky.
I can relate. I'm not a fan of folding. Sometimes you just gotta make people prove it to you.
Yeah. Are we done?
I don't know. This would correlate to Daniel taking a break at the top of the hour if he plans on continuing. I haven't seen the 3 dots yet. Usually that's
find out
what signifies a GG. Thanks to everybody in chat who's been following along. I know some of you have been firing out questions for Bill, but there's a lot of text for me to comb through.
Let's do some questions. Let's give the people what they want.
Yeah, any questions for Bill, go ahead and fire them in now. I'll pay a little closer attention rather than me scrolling back through the last hour. This is where everybody goes silent and nobody wants to know anything.
Nobody wants to know anything. They're like, shut up, Perkins.
Do you have any travel plans now that COVID? Well, I don't know that COVID's lessening. I know in Nevada it's at least lessening, but I think it's just because it's so goddamn cold nobody wants to go outside.
It actually is. I mean, the hospital, we track that intently.
Mm-hmm.
We have COVID math blog .com.
Okay.
That we made public. I posted a link on it, and every day it updates the stats, the studies, latest things, recommendations, and then it has like a grid and charts on what the trends are. So, you would expect since 65 and older is over half the deaths, mm-hmm. right? And hospitalizations, et cetera, that when you target them about a month to whatever later, that you would see deaths and hospitalizations go down, right?
Okay.
Because it's highly effective against severe COVID and 95% effective against just getting it, right? And so since they're such an outsized portion of deaths and hospitalizations, you're starting to see that capacity in California, et cetera, loosen up. You know, and that's a combination of two things. Enough people catching it that people self-isolate,
Right.
You stay away from that guy and stay away from this guy, and I've already got it. And the vaccine is starting to take effect in your most vulnerable population. So, you know, I speculated a couple months ago that when the vaccine came out and the way the vaccine distribution is going on, you know, 30, 45 days, 60 days after that, you're going to see massive declines, outsized declines in deaths and hospitalizations, just because of you know, who's getting them first, et cetera.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm going to St. Thomas, and then I'm going to St. Bart's.
Okay. Seems like a reasonable
I've
place
had my
to spend the
first
winter.
dose of the vaccine
Okay.
in St. Thomas, and I will have my second dose on the 5th, and I will be weapons free after the second dose.
Good for you. I got those antibodies. I was lucky enough to be totally asymptomatic while
Nice.
while having it, other than losing my taste, which was good because it signaled that I had it and I knew enough to get tested. But man, eating is weird. I have a very bland palate to begin with. I eat boiled chicken regularly, but like when you literally can't taste anything, it's weird because textures are heightened so much.
Right. So it's like you want crunchy things or soft things or whatever the things.
Salty things, like I could catch a hint of salt, or like sour. Those were, you know, you couldn't really taste it, but like there was a hint of it at least, so it felt like you were getting some flavor.
How about lemon juice? Does that do anything or no?
Again, like I knew that I was drinking, or like I knew that it was not tasteless, but I couldn't really like say, you know, it was. If you put a blindfold on me, I wouldn't necessarily know it was a lemon. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend that had the same thing. They lost a lot of weight. They were overweight, and they lost their permanent. So far, 6 months afterwards, they still don't have their.
That's
taste
great.
and smell.
Oh,
They
still
lost-
doesn't have his taste. Oh wow. I was just saying
Yeah,
it's
she
great
doesn't.
that they lost the weight, but that's brutal that still don't have
Yeah.
the taste or smell.
I mean, but I think net they'll have a longer life because they lost so much weight.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, you fall out of love with food, right? It's kind of a cultural shift.
Yeah.
We have this
Right. Food
weird.
became fuel, not like a pleasure center.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
By
yeah.
force. So the answer to the question is yeah, I'm going to go into the Caribbean.
Nice.
First week in February.
Yeah, it's a brutal place to spend the winter. I
Yeah.
feel for you, man.
Save prayers, thoughts, and prayers, please.
Wayne Simmons wants to know what your biggest profit session of poker ever was.
Profit?
Yeah.
It's like 2-point-something million.
Wow.
I think it's 2 million.
You know, it's
Yeah.
not easy to make me say wow. I've played some big fucking games. That's big.
I mean, I've also lost that much. You know, you get.
That's the way it should be. Like, you should be somewhere in the neighborhood of like 60 to 100%. Your biggest loss and biggest win, I think.
Yeah, it was right around there. These games get ridiculous though. I play and people just go nutty. And they start out with like 40 grand or 50 grand on the table, and then people just get angry.
I was playing I was playing a 100 200 game private during COVID that routinely would turn into a 6 straddle game. I was just like, what are we doing here, guys? We all bought in for 10,000 to start this game, and you know, now we're straddling for 6,000.
Yeah, it goes up, it goes crazy. People buy to cover the biggest guy, and then you know you open up with queens, and then you get 4 callers behind you.
Yep.
It's just like
bingo.
It's those crazy games, right?
Yep.
Like,
Just
I'm
we're
dead.
playing bingo for houses. No big deal.
It is time. It's like my time has come. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You feel real good whenever there's all that money out there and you flop something.
Yeah.
Time Text says, what do you think about the new Face Drive company?
Face drive?
Yeah, I don't know what that is either.
I'm unaware.
All right. Sounds
ignorant.
sounds non-important to us. Jenna Cat says, how did you make your fortune? Are you lifetime up or down in poker?
I would, including tournaments, I think I'm lifetime up.
Good for
now.
you.
No, I gotta be lifetime down. Lifetime down. I'm forgetting one year that was absolutely horrible. No, still lifetime down.
Sure.
You know, the tournament banks help. But
Yeah, man, you look classy as fuck when you were out there at the one drop final table.
I mean, they asked me to dress. They said, everybody, please come dressed up. I scrambled that morning to go get it, but I threw it together, right?
That suit was fly. I was a fan.
Yeah. And how did I make my fortune? Primarily through trading natural gas.
Yeah.
I speculate on the price of natural gas.
Seems like the right thing to do if you know what you're doing. What do you think about the policies of Andrew Yang?
Some of them I agree with, in direction, but sometimes not with magnitude, and some of them I'm just like, no, you know. But I do think two things about Andrew Yang. He is a pragmatic guy trying to solve problems, not trying to score points.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate that. Even if I disagree with his approach or whatever, like he's the type of person that I would want in office. I might like vehemently oppose and lobby against some of his policies,
sure,
or the magnitude of them, but he is the, you know, I like Andrew Yang.
Yeah, I have similar sentiments. I don't know his policies well enough, and I probably don't even know governmental policies well enough to kind of comment. But he seems to me like a root cause analysis guy who's truly trying to get to the core of problems and solve them from the inside out, rather than just slap a Band-Aid on something, drive up the national debt, and call it a day.
Yeah. And you know, if he's talking about, like, you know, it seems like every, you know, Democrat, Republicans, it's the print money and the print more money party, you know, but the allocation of that money and who it goes to matters. And, you know, at least he's allocating it to the source, directly to the people, cutting out bureaucracy,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And addressing a problem. You know, I mean, if you put a gun to my head, that versus these corporate bailouts and cronyism, I'll take Andrew Yang any day of the week.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. Big pot here on table 2. Didn't see how we get here, but the 9 of spades is a game-changing card. You see Doug go with 2/3 pot. I don't really want to speculate on his range because I'm not sure how we got here. Daniel does ultimately arrive at a fold. Let's see. Sugar W wants to know what your favorite prop bet that you've been involved in was. I have 2 off the top of my head that I think are pretty interesting.
I like the Staples bets.
That was one of the ones I was thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, that one was.
No.
Great.
Daniel gets stacked. Jacks versus 7s.
Oh no! They just got it in, and then that was it, huh?
Yeah. I think there were 100 blinds effective. Daniel may have called a 3-bet, got it in on a dry board. It was 8-8x, or he may have just like 4-bet called off the shove. Either one would make sense to me.
Yeah. We got a 4-bet and a call.
Now the chips are flying.
Chips are flying. We love to see it. We don't like the result, but we love to see it.
Yeah. Results be damned. That gives you a shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Just put 40,000 in the pot as many times as possible, and hopefully we'll see a return. Here we do see a small check raise out of Doug on King 6-3 versus Daniel's quarter pot, and Daniel does ultimately arrive at a fold. I do agree with what you were saying earlier in the sense that I think that I'm sure that Doug is just randomizing all of his spots, but my instincts are that he quote-unquote rolls high a little bit more often when he's out to a good sizable lead. Yeah. Like, I think he tends to lean aggressive whenever he's performing well, but maybe he's just always leaning aggressive and we only notice it when pots are getting shipped his way.
Yeah.
Check on the right. Doug wins with 9-8, pair of 9s. What was the other prop bet? Well, actually, let me ask you about the Staples one first. Obviously, the first one was pretty incredible. They had to get within 1 pound of one another.
Yep.
And they had a year or months to do so. I can't recall.
I think they had, I don't know, It's a good question. I think it might have been a year, or it might have been 10 months, some set amount of time.
And you were laying
right?
a big price, right?
Yeah, I laid like a ridiculous odds for them to go do it. So they you know, what are they gonna do? Put up a, you know, I got to give them the odds to fit their bankroll. Right?
Yeah. I thought the
So it was
follow-up bet
enough-
was insane. It was
A body fat percent bet.
yeah, but they were Jamie was betting you at like even money, right?
No, I think he was getting some odds
Okay.
on this, but he
Do you
He-
recall the
he got-
stipulations, like what his body fat percentage had to be, or how much he had to lose?
yeah, you know, body fat bets are different than weight loss bets significantly. There's a lot of weightlifting and all kinds of other things that you're doing different. Like you're basically trying to become a bodybuilder, right?
Yep.
Sculpting your body, as opposed to just, you know, I don't care if I burn muscle and fat.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to lose weight. And I think they're actually healthier.
Yeah, I agree with you. Wholeheartedly. I made one with Christian that he early paid on. So we made it November 2019, and he was 39% body fat at that point, and I laid him 5-1 on losing half of his body fat percentage, which I think is like insane odds. So I risked 25 to his 5.
And did he do it?
No, he basically paid me. So he was on track. I would say he was on track the first 2 months, and then I would say that he kept himself in a position to potentially win it the next 3 months. So for the first 5 months of the challenge, I would say that he was within striking distance. Let's say that much, because he lost a lot of weight. So he probably dropped like 50 pounds overall. But the thing was, is he wasn't doing it very scientifically.
Right.
So his body fat percentage only dropped like 3%. He went from like 39 to 36, despite having lost like a quarter of his body weight. And I think that frustrated him, on top of the fact that live poker opened up right around that time and was really juicy. So he just like, he ended up playing like 300 hours in the month of August and made like a pile of money and effectively just paid me. Was just like, yep, that's it.
He's done.
Can't take a month off and expect to get back to this. Like, just done.
Yeah, it's a huge discipline bet. I mean, a massive discipline bet.
Yeah, I think so too.
But that was good because I think they inspired a lot of other people, and a lot of the people did all kinds of things like losing weight or blah blah blah, reading book, learning language, and I thought that ripple was really good. So
did you ever talk to him about the second half of the bet, or the second bet?
No, I think he just I used to talk to him. I was like, you need to be doing X, Y, and Z, and I think like, you know, he had a lot on his plate, and really just didn't have the he couldn't make it the priority that it needed to be.
Yeah.
In order to get there.
Yeah, because he reverted like pretty heavily, right? Oh no, Daniel caught bluffing. That might be it. This is not swinging in the right direction.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Looked like he flopped a gut shot, turned a backdoor flush draw, and rolled with it. Sometimes you got to run it. Unfortunately, this is going to be a 200K swing in Doug's favor right now. Well, I think I can safely say that unless these results revert, Doug won't be limping next match.
No, he won't. He won't. If he's 700K plus, he won't need to.
Yeah, that part's true.
He needs to start thinking about that around 500 or so, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Right now, he's having a very good session.
Yeah, he's and that's the thing too. It's like when you zoom into this, it's very important to run well in these spots. And just like Daniel ran pretty fucking great to win 10 buy-ins, Doug's running pretty hot tier 2 to be like almost +5.
Yeah,
he has value in spots that he needs to have value. He has Daniel with good bluff candidates in spots where he's gonna fire off. And
yeah.
Earlier in the match too, there was a couple spots where Daniel like didn't go for value with a pretty nutted hand. He checked back Queen 9 on a board where only Ace Queen beat him in a 3-bet pot, I think, where Doug checked to him on the river and Daniel checked back. And he also checked down trip 10, or sorry, 10's full on Jack, Jack 9, 10, 10. And I think that those decisions may have been influenced by the fact that he knew Doug was trying to lower volatility, and maybe Doug has more traps than usual. Maybe Doug is not calling as lightly as he had been in the past. At the time, the match was like maybe plus 25K in Daniel's favor. But now we see the beast has been unleashed. The chains are off, Polk.
Also, Doug's not afraid to like re-raise bluff you, put you in like a super awkward spot, right?
Yeah.
You're sitting there with like,
you just gotta call, man. You lose the chips. You know, you have a hand that justifies betting. Because the thing is, like on the Jack, Jack 10, 10, 9 board, you're going to be value betting thinner than just a 10. You're going to value bet an ace. You're definitely going to value bet like aces, kings, and queens to some degree or some frequency. And then you're going to be bluffing a bunch of hands. You're going to have a lot of 9x. The way the hand played out, it was single raise, flop went check, check. And then Daniel called a bet on the turn and then checked down when check 2 on the river. You just have a lot of bets there. You know, you have a 9 that got counterfeit. You have small pairs that got counterfeit. You have ace highs that can get value from king and queen high. And Doug did end up having king high. Sometimes you just gotta, you gotta dare him. He's sometimes just gonna be sitting there with the 9-8 saying, let's see if he can stomach a raise in a spot where I know he doesn't have a jack.
ooh, 3-bet, 4-bet, all in.
Let's go.
Hold.
It's a big hold.
Need to hold here.
Okay.
That's good. We'll
That's
take
a
it.
50K swing in Daniel's favor. We're going to see this get back down to a more favorable number. So that's something that it's funny. That's the exact opposite of the setup from the other table that caused the swing. But that's something that...
we might be going again here.
Yeah, let's go, baby. Find that smash.
I want to see it all in. I don't even care.
Yeah, fuck calling.
Oh, you didn't jam it. What about the jam? Fuck it.
That's something that I was surprised to see, is that like through the first 15,000, maybe even like up to this point, maybe the first 20,000 hands, I think we've seen all in pre ace king versus ace queen like 3 times. And that just seems like incredibly low for how many hands they played at 100 big blinds in depth and the probability that those 2 hands ran into one another. So like, I just wonder how much of, from both sides, like how much strategy has kind of been curbed where one thinks the other is a little bit imbalanced towards value.
Yeah. Wonder what's going on here. We got one SPR.
Yeah, I think we see this a lot. Flop went check by Daniel, small bet by Doug, call. I think the turn 7, it gets small bet a lot. On a 2-tone board like this, I imagine Daniel's going to rip more of his value. He'll probably call with like a lot of Jack X and other showdown hands, but the 7X portion is probably going to be all in a little bit. The diamonds portion will be ripping through some. There we go. We do see the shove and a snap fold by Doug.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is good. These are good swings. Down to plus 110.
A respectable loss, as I like to say when playing.
Yeah, you can 2 to 3 buy-ins. 2 to 3 buy-ins you can stomach, right? Like, it's not great. We're moving in the wrong direction, but like whatever. It's
you know, it's not yet above the vig of the 9.3 big blinds I'm getting, but take it. You know?
But yeah, like the 5 buy-in swings, you're just like, come on, like.
Yeah, it's like 1 buy-in. It's like, oh, I can cover that.
Yeah.
So what other questions we got in the story box there?
One that seems to have caused some controversy, but I'll ask it anyway. What do you think about the Keystone Pipeline being scrapped?
Oh, you know, I didn't even know that. I find that interesting that a company can put all this money into it, get the permits or whatever, and then by executive order it gets killed. I assume that there's some sort of compensation. Then fine, that's what the rules are.
Mm-hmm.
Being in the oil and gas industry, I am skeptical of the oil and gas guys, right?
Yeah.
And their methods and procedures and right of ways, et cetera. But they did have, they did go through a permitting process. They did do this, it was that. And I know that there are people who are on the other side are just as unscrupulous, making up reasons and trying to delay projects, et cetera, because they believe that we want to get off fossil fuels, et cetera. So it doesn't have to do necessarily with the merits of the permit, but it has to do with their totality of their argument against fossil fuels. So I didn't really, I'd have to really go dig in the docket and look at the path and et cetera to really give you an opinion, but that's just kind of like my top level thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. Obviously, everything's going to come back to bureaucratic issues when it's all said and done on these controversial things, right? Like, usually you can follow the money, you can follow the policy, and those two things are going to be pretty indicative of where the ruling ultimately came from.
I mean, people had, there's people who don't want it cutting through under the land and a river, and they have legitimate concerns. And there's a lot of people just like, I don't give a shit. I don't want any fossil fuels. And there's also competitors.
Yeah.
Right. Like I remember when, it's way back when, I don't know if guys, nobody probably even paid attention, but there was a guy who owned a bunch of coal plants, et cetera, lobbying against these natural gas plants going in, right? Like, blah, blah, blah. And he supported all these environmental groups or whatever to attack these natural gas plants because he owned coal power and he wanted to, produce coal.
Sure.
Right. So these, there's so much, this is why I'm a libertarian. There's so much gamesmanship going on in rules and regulations that's really meant to protect incumbent business interests and not really protect people.
Yeah. Huge part.
There's some obvious ones like licensing laws in states, right? Like, why do you need a license to be an interior decorator, right?
Yeah.
To protect incumbents, right? Why do you need a license to braid hair? You don't need a license to braid hair. And there's probably hundreds of examples of this that basically get in the way of people getting out of poverty, creating a business, being entrepreneurs, but protect and entrench interests, right?
Yeah.
And stifle competition.
Yeah, and I imagine like a lot of that again just comes down to like how the bottom line is being distributed, and
right.
Lobbyists obviously are a big impact of that as well. Yeah, it seems like a rigged game. At the end of the day, like it's very hard not to say that it feels like a bit of a rigged game.
Yeah, it's like people complain about like medical device prices, right? Like you get a hearing aid, it's like a couple $1,000s. It's no different than like your AirPods, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah.
But it's a regulated medical device that has all these hoops and hurdles and things, and they use that to jack up the price, right?
And insurance is often paying, which is a whole nother layer.
Yeah, it's paying and it's jacked and it's a game and they're protected. And you would think, hey, they would want to get rid of all these hurdles they have to go over them. No, because that means every upstart guy can make a much better hearing aid product and sell it as a hearing aid, and that would create competition, right?
Yeah.
Like you can buy a stud finder that has sonar, right, and looks through your wall and gives you a picture or whatever. But that same device is like something to look at your bones. If your bones are broken, is like 50x.
Right. Yeah.
Same technology, same everything, and so there's a lot of regs out there that are really not for your benefit. They're actually to your detriment.
Yeah, I think that's true. Looks like we're at the GG point. Daniel lost a medium-sized pot where Doug hit running queens. Not sure what Daniel had. It was a 3 heart board.
That would probably tilt Daniel and be like, okay, it's just not my day.
Yeah. So that's
I liked it better when he was down 90 and now he's down 135. Right. Great job with keeping the score and the hand count where it,
just about 20. So we'll definitely cross the 20K mark next session.
But we need the script to do one more thing.
Okay.
We need to have a hands for this session.
How many they played? Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a little subtraction for us, for us big blind bettors out there.
Sure. That I imagine will be super, super simple for Andre to implement. Matter of fact, he's at work as we speak. Perkins. Thank you so much for doing this, by the way. I really appreciate it. I know that this wasn't scheduled and your time is very precious. So you know, we appreciate the support. We appreciate you stopping in and divulging a little bit of what you know about the match.
Yeah, it's been fun. I'm gonna sweat it anyway. I'm happy to be on the show, and you guys got like I said, you guys got the best graphics. You got the up-to-date score. You got the hands graphics. You guys are the NFL on Fox of poker right now. With you. Wait,
What?
there's more.
This has to be just to fix the button, yeah?
Oh, okay, this might be just to fix the button. Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Oh, wait, that was it.
Suddenly they just start
Yeah.
one tabling. All right, here we go.
Yeah, that would be good. All right,
Yeah.
well, you guys have a good night, and good luck to us in the next match.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
You got it.